Chapter 91. Chapter 91. Chapter 91 Destruction. 549690339. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the entire scene. He could roughly guess what had happened when he saw the charred bodies. In his heart, a cold and sharp killing intent burst out. Although warriors had great power, they had their own rules and pride. Ordinary warriors would not kill ordinary people. However, these disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School had already lost their bottom line. In order to achieve their goals, they would do anything. Lu Ming's killing intent had never been so strong. Sensing the killing intent from Lu Ming, the eyes of the disciples from the omnidirectional sword sect narrowed. Zheng frowned. He remembered that he had sent 9 people in that direction, but not only had no one come, but an unfamiliar teenager had also come. Something was wrong. Zheng's expression changed. Lu Ming took one step at a time. It seemed slow, but he was actually very fast. In a few breaths, he was in front of the disciple from the omnipresent sword sect. "Kid, how did you get here? And where are the disciples of my 10 Directions Sword School? Did you see it?" A disciple of the 10 Directions Sword School asked loudly. "I did, but they're all dead." Lu Ming responded indifferently. The 20 or so disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School all had a change in expression. Someone shouted, "Tell me, how did you die?" Lu Ming smiled coldly. With a wave of his hand, the fire-patterned spear appeared. A powerful aura burst out. "Of course I killed them. Now, I'll send you down to accompany them." "You killed him? Brat, you're quite bold. Little bastard, how dare you kill the disciples of my 10 Directions Sword School? You're dead. Not only you, but your family will also be dead. Tell me, what method did you use to sneak attack? You still want to kill us? You're overestimating yourself. I'll kill you." Lu Ming's words caused a commotion. A burly young man strode out with a huge sword in his hand and slashed at Lu Ming's head. If this sword hit, it would definitely split Lu Ming into 2. Buzz! A bolt of lightning flashed and the burly young man's body suddenly stiffened. With a clang, his sword fell to the ground. Then, he clenched his throat with both hands. His eyes were wide open like a dead fish, revealing a look of disbelief. There was a bloody hole in his throat, and blood was flowing out. Lightning pursuit of the fire gun art was the fastest move in the fire gun art. The surrounding disciples of the omnidirectional sword sect did not even see how Lu Ming had attacked. "Those who kill will always be killed. If you want to kill me, then be prepared to be killed." Lu Ming's indifferent voice was heard. The burly young man fell to the ground and struggled a few times before he stopped breathing. "Good kill." More than 10 stone hunters shouted in their hearts. Although they did not dare to shout it out, they were very happy in their hearts. Zheng's eyes narrowed. What a fast speed. "Everyone, let's attack together and kill him. Kill. Go to hell." At once, more than a dozen disciples from the omnidirectional sword school roared and leaped high into the air, slashing out sharp sword chi at Lu Ming from the front. The weakest of the disciples was at the 6th grade master realm, while the strongest was at the 8th grade master realm. The combined power of the dozen of them was extremely terrifying. Even a 9th grade master realm expert would be chopped to death by the swords. However, Lu Ming did not move at all. He did not even blink. Fire gun art fire dance. All of a sudden, Lu Ming held the end of the spear in his hand. The long spear swayed and pierced forward. And NBSB, hoo. The sound of the long spear vibrating could be heard. Then, fiery red flames suddenly appeared in the sky. These flames were scarlet red, poignant, and beautiful. They were like flowers of flames, and they also seemed to be dancing. When the flower of flames bloomed, the scene suddenly rang out with a series of miserable screams. The 10 or so disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect retreated in unison. Fresh blood scattered in the air, and it was extremely tragic. There was a bloody hole in each of the 10 or so disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School, either in their throats or hearts. In one move, 13 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School were killed. However, Lu Ming did not stop at all. He strode forward and swept his long spear horizontally. LNU! Bang bang! A series of bone-cracking sounds were heard, and the 8 young men from the 10 Directions sword school were sent flying far away. He fell to the ground and stopped breathing. It was a complete sweep. This was Lu Ming's current combat strength. With his black-grade low-level martial skill cultivated to the 2nd stage and his cultivation breaking through to the early 8th grade master realm, his battle prowess had increased to a terrifying level. There were only 3 disciples from the 10 Direction sword school left. One was Zhang, and the other was a 9th grade master realm expert. The other one was the flat-nosed young man. As he was standing close to the stone hunters, Lu Ming's attack did not affect him. At this moment, the flat-nosed young man's expression changed drastically, and his legs and stomach trembled. Zheng's expression also became extremely grave. Your combat power is very strong, but you've killed so many of our 10 Directions sword school's disciples. From now on, no one will be able to save you, no matter whether you're in heaven or in hell. Zheng's voice was cold. As long as I kill all of you, who will know that I did it? Lu Ming smiled indifferently. Ha ha ha, you want to kill me? I admit that you're very strong, and I'm not sure if I can kill you. But you want to kill me? I'll let you know how laughable your words are. Zheng Qian pointed his sword at Lu Ming, and a powerful red sword aura flickered. Brother Zhao, let's kill him together. Die! Zheng Jiao suddenly shouted. He leaped up and slashed his sword at Lu Ming. The combat sword cut through the air, producing an ear-piercing sonic boom. At the same time, on the other side, the 9th grade Master Realm disciple from the Omnipresent Sword School also burst out and slashed at Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming lifted it upwards. Clang! Clang! The spear and the 2 swords clashed, causing a violent vibration. Lu Ming's figure swayed slightly and he took 3 steps back. Zheng was also thrown back a few meters, landing on the ground. As for the 9th grade Master Realm young man, he was thrown back a dozen meters and spat out a mouthful of blood. This Zheng Jia is so powerful. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Although they had only exchanged one move, Lu Ming could sense that the power that Zheng Qian's combat sword was spreading out was extremely powerful. It was like a raging wave that was continuous. The other 9th grade Master Realm young man was trash compared to him. He was definitely not weaker than He Tai. The reason why Lu Ming retreated was basically because of Zhang Zheng. At this moment, Zhang was also extremely shocked. Lu Ming's strength had also exceeded his expectations. He was not weaker than him. In fact, he was even stronger. Kill. There was nothing much to say. The 2 sides were already mortal enemies, and it would only end when one side fell. The 2 sides fought again. The 2 of them erupted with their bloodlines. This time, Zhang was the main attacker, while the other 9th grade Master Realm youth sneaked an attack from the side. For a moment, Lu Ming was somewhat passive. As for the flat-nosed youngster, he couldn't do anything at all. He could only watch anxiously from the side. Chapter 92. Chapter 92, Killing Zheng. 5496903339, Cross-shaped killing sword. Zheng Jiao wielded a huge sword that was wider than his palm. His attack was extremely overbearing. As he slashed out, the sword radiance formed a cross and slashed down at Lu Ming. Its power was immense. Broken armor. Lu Ming's long spear trembled. The tip of the spear formed a spinning cutting force that collided with Zheng Jiao's sword gleam. Clang! There was a loud explosion. Lu Ming took 2 steps back while Zheng Jiao took 3 steps back. In a head-on confrontation, Lu Ming had the upper hand. This Zheng, how can his attack be so strong? The martial skill he used is clearly not a black-grade martial skill, but a yellow-grade upper-level martial skill. Although it has already been cultivated to an extremely high level, its attack power can't possibly be this strong. There was a flash of suspicion in Lu Ming's eyes. Although Zhang's cultivation had already reached the peak of the 9th grade Master Realm and he had even activated a 5th level Blood Meridian, without a black level martial arts technique, it was impossible for his attack power to be so strong. He was actually only at a slight disadvantage when he fought Lu Ming head-on. Lu Ming's essential qi was 3 times more condensed than ordinary essential qi. In addition, he had already cultivated the flaming gun technique to the 2nd level. Lu Ming could defeat an ordinary 9th grade peak Master Realm martial artist in one move. Oh right, it's the body. This Zheng Jia's body is extremely strong. He should have cultivated the path of body refinement. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. He discovered that Zheng Gan's muscles were bulging, and his skin was covered with a faint red glow. It must be his physical body. Zheng had cultivated a body-tempering technique. When his physical body was combined with essential qi, he could erupt with astonishing combat power. That was why he could fight against Lu Ming. Buzz. At this moment, a sword light was rapidly piercing toward Lu Ming. How troublesome. Lu Ming frowned. He swung his long spear and it collided with a thin sword. A figure retreated far away. It was the 9th grade Master Realm disciple from the 10-Direction Sword School. Although the disciple's attack power was not strong, his body movement was not weak. He was slippery and sneaky. He took advantage of Lu Ming's flaws to launch a sneak attack. If I use my bloodline power, I can defeat them easily. However, I can't always rely on my bloodline power. It can only be used as a trump card and can't be used in regular battles. I'll just rely on my current state to finish them off. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and charged toward Zheng Jian. Landslide. The long spear came down from above and smashed down heavily. Zheng's eyes focused, and he used his sword to block. Boom! The rock under Zheng's feet shattered, and he retreated. He's only at the early stage of the 8th grade Master Realm. Even though he's cultivated a black grade martial skill, how can he be so powerful? My physical body has already been cultivated to complete grade 1, but I'm still no match for him. Zheng Qian's shock could not be any greater. It was normal to suppress him if they were of the same level. However, Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the early stage of the 8th grade Master Realm. How did he do it? Kill. Lu Ming's fighting spirit was like a rainbow. He continuously attacked Jing, using Zheng to practice his spear technique. The surging dragon-shaped vital energy was continuously infused into the long spear. It was extremely smooth. One spear after another, Lu Ming was like an invincible general who was galloping on the battlefield. Zheng was completely suppressed. Buzz. At this moment, a sword light suddenly stabbed toward Lu Ming's back. I'm just waiting for you to make your move. A cold glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. He swept his long spear across without turning his head. LNU. A ray of red moonlight flashed, and the 9th grade Master Realm disciple was shocked. He used his movement technique to retreat. But it was too late. The spear was 8 feet long, and with the arm ruler, the 3-meter distance was completely covered. Block it. The 9th grade Master Realm Shifang Sword School disciple turned pale with fright and used his long sword to block in front of him. However, his long sword was thin, so it couldn't be blocked at the root. Clang! Lu Ming's long spear struck his long sword. A violent force exploded and the long sword bent. The body of the sword and the body of the spear struck his chest heavily. Bang! The Shifang Sword School disciple's body was sent flying like a sandbag. His body was stuck to the ground and slid for dozens of meters, creating a deep ditch on the hard ground. By the time he stopped, he was no longer breathing. A 9th grade Master Realm expert was killed by Lu Ming's spear. After sending the 9th grade Master Realm disciple flying, Lu Ming's long spear did not stop. It continued to move forward and clashed with Zheng Jiao's attack. Now, there's no one to disturb me. I can finish you off. Lu Ming's calm voice was heard. He took a step forward and his long spear struck out like lightning. Zheng did his best to block. In the blink of an eye, the two exchanged more than 10 moves. The more Lu Ming fought, the more courageous he became. His understanding of the fire gun art became deeper and his power became greater. Zheng was completely outmatched and was forced to retreat. Not far away, the flat-nosed young man's face turned pale. He suddenly shouted, "Senior brother Zheng, hold on for now. I'll return to the sect first and report to the elders to avenge you." Then, he ran away. Damn it! Zheng roared. He does deserve to die. Don't worry, after I'm done with you, I'll kill him for you. Lu Ming said indifferently. Boom! The spear struck Zheng's sword, causing him to retreat, spitting out a mouthful of blood. The repeated battles had caused his muscles to tremble non-stop. The web between his thumb and forefinger had split open, and blood was seeping out. If it was not for his strong physical body that allowed him to unleash his essential qi without thinking of the consequences, he would have been killed by Lu Ming. Even so, he was severely injured. True qi. His true qi is too powerful. It's unstoppable. Zheng's eyes were filled with fear. Wait a minute. As long as you let me go, I can forget about the fact that you killed so many of my 10 Directions Sword School's disciples. I won't pursue this matter. Otherwise, you won't be able to withstand the anger of the 10 Directions Sword School. Zheng Qian shouted timidly. You're still threatening me at a time like this? What an idiot. Lu Ming said indifferently. The long spear did not stop and it was aimed at Zheng Jiao. Boom. Ting, ting, ting. Zheng Qian retreated 7 or 8 steps, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. His injuries had worsened. Stop, stop, treasure. There are treasures in that extinct volcano. As long as you spare me, I can give you half, yes, half. Zheng shouted. No need. As long as I kill you, everything will be mine. I'm not going to play with you anymore. That junior brother of yours has already run far away. If you continue playing, he might really get away. Lu Ming's lips twitched and his body suddenly flashed red. Bloodline explosion. He had tested enough, so there was no need to keep it. Whoosh. The spear turned into a bolt of lightning, much faster than before. Zheng couldn't block it at all. No! Zheng shouted. The long spear pierced through his heart. Zheng's hands tightly gripped the spear, his eyes filled with unwillingness. Blood continuously flowed out of his mouth as he hoarsely shouted, You! Who the hell are you? Lu Ming pulled out his long spear and stomped on the ground. He chased after the flat-nosed young man like a bolt of lightning. Then, his voice came from afar, Lu Ming of the mystical sword sect. Lu Ming's figure had already disappeared. The mystical sword sect. Zheng muttered, the life in his eyes quickly dissipating. Chapter 93. Chapter 93. Chapter 93 Counting the Harvest. 5496903339. Lu Ming's body was like the wind, extremely fast. He used the dragon serpent steps to its maximum. Although it was only a yellow rank lower level movement technique, Lu Ming's speed was still extremely fast under the explosion of his powerful essential qi. In just a few minutes, he saw the flat-nosed young man's figure. Hearing the sound of the wind, the flat-nosed young man turned around and was almost scared out of his wits. How could he be so fast? Could Zheng have been killed? He had originally thought that Zheng could at least block another 100 moves. Don't come over. The flat-nosed youngster ran frantically, shouting wildly. However, the distance between him and Lu Ming continued to close. The flat-nosed youngster simply couldn't escape. Plop. At this time, the flat-nosed young man suddenly stopped, turned around, and knelt down with a plop. His actions were done in one go. Please, please, please don't kill me. As long as you let me go, I won't say a word about what happened today. The flat-nosed young man kept kowtowing and shouting. Why should I believe you? Lu Ming said with a cold smile. I can swear, I swear, I will never tell anyone. If I tell anyone, I will die a horrible death. The flat-nosed young man pointed to the sky and swore. Sure, I can give you a chance. Lu Ming suddenly smiled coldly and kicked him. Bang! This kick landed directly on the flat-nosed young man's dantian, scattering his qi current. Ah! Didn't you say that you would give me a chance after you destroyed my cultivation? The flat-nosed young man let out a heart-wrenching scream. Don't worry, I'll give you a chance. Lu Ming grabbed the flat-nosed young man's neck and walked toward the extinct volcano as if he was carrying a little chick. Soon, they arrived at the place where the battle had taken place. At that moment, the stone hunters had all escaped. You! What are you trying to do? The flat-nosed young man asked in a trembling voice. It's very simple. Walk forward and explore the path. However, you're not allowed to take the path that has already been explored. Walk on the other side. Lu Ming pointed in the direction of the extinct volcano and said indifferently. In an instant, The flat-nosed young man's face turned pale. His voice trembled as he said, "Haven't we already found the path to the extinct volcano? Why do you still want me to scout the way?" "No, I'm not going. Don't you like to ask others to help you find the way? Now, I want you to try it yourself. It's fine if you don't want to go, but I'll send you to reunite with your senior and junior brothers now." Lu Ming waved his long spear. The spear glowed and a cold killing intent enveloped the flat-nosed young man. "No, no, you can't do this to me. There are dangers everywhere. I'll die if I go. I'm begging you, let me go." The flat-nosed young man was covered in cold sweat and his body was trembling non-stop. Especially when he thought of how the stone hunters had been burned to death, he shuddered. Before, when he had watched others go to explore the way, he had gloated and acted arrogantly, as if he was watching ants struggling on their deathbeds. He had no pity at all. But now, when it was his turn, he was more afraid than anyone. "This is your only chance. My patience is limited. I'll count to 3. If you don't go after 3, then you don't have to go." Lu Ming's voice was extremely cold. To deal with such a person, what could be more satisfying than giving him a taste of his own medicine? 1, 2. I'll go, I'll go. When Lu Ming was about to say 3, the flat-nosed young man finally could not take the pressure and shouted. Then, his body trembled and he walked forward step by step. The further he walked, the more his body trembled. When he had walked more than 100 meters, a foul smell came out, and he was so scared that he peed himself. Buzz! Suddenly, a gas burst out from under his feet. The flat-nosed young man was so frightened that his soul flew out of his body. He screamed and fell straight down. Lu Ming frowned. He walked up to take a look and was instantly speechless. The flat-nosed young man's face was ashen. He was not breathing at all. He was actually scared to death by a stream of hot air. Lu Ming shook his head and walked back to collect his spoils. These were the disciples of the omnipresent sword school. They must have many valuable things on them. Lu Ming would not miss this opportunity. As he searched for the spoils of war, he devoured their blood essence one by one. After the search, Lu Ming left the place and returned to the outer area. He then entered the Supreme Shrine and began to refine the blood essence. Now that Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the 8th grade Master Realm, the blood essence of martial artists below the 8th grade Master Realm was of little use to him. Only those above the 8th grade Master Realm would be of some help. After refining all the blood essence of the omnidirectional sword school disciple, Lu Ming's cultivation had improved to a certain extent. However, it was not by much. He was still a distance away from the middle 8th grade Master Realm. After refining the blood essence, Lu Ming began to check his spoils of war. With a wave of his hand, 2 storage rings appeared. It was a pleasant surprise that 2 of the disciples from the 10 Directions Sword School had storage rings. One was from Zhengjia, and the other was from the 9th grade Master Realm youth. Then, with a thought, a pile of items appeared in the Supreme Shrine. Lu Ming started to count the Silivera notes. Why is there only so little? After counting, Lu Ming frowned slightly. The Silivera notes of the 20 or so disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School only added up to 4 million taels. More than 4 million taels of Silivera seemed like a lot, but it depended on where he had gotten it. The 10 or so disciples of the Shifang Sword School were at least at the 6th grade Master Realm. On average, each of them only had less than 200,000 taels of Silivera. This was considered very little. On second thought, Lu Ming felt at ease. It was very normal. Just like him, the extra Silivera was exchanged for contribution points, which were then used to exchange for resources that were useful to him to improve his strength. Most of the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School were the same. They kept some Silivera on them and exchanged the rest. After keeping the Silivera notes, Lu Ming looked at the other items. There were some scattered pills that were not worth much money. Lu Ming put them aside. In the end, his gaze fell on a few books. Wild Wave Slash, a yellow-grade low-level sword technique, a yellow-grade high-level movement technique. Hunyuan Technique, a yellow-grade upper-level cultivation skill. Lu Ming was overjoyed to learn 3 cultivation methods and martial arts techniques in a row. Generally speaking, sect disciples like them would rarely have cultivation methods and martial skill secret books on them, because most cultivation methods and martial skill secret books were rented from the sect's library hall to cultivate. There was a time limit, and when the time was up, they would have to return it. Of course, there were also exceptions. Some people had a fortuitous encounter and obtained some cultivation methods and martial skill secret books. These cultivation methods and secret books were for their own private use. For example, these books were mostly privately owned by the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect. He had obtained the Cloud Treading Steps from the 9th grade Master Realm Youth. If he were to sell these 3 cultivation methods and martial skill manuals, they would be worth at least 5 to 6 million silivera. He had really profited. However, when Lu Ming's gaze landed on the 4th book, he was greatly shocked. Flaming Vajra Arts, a body tempering technique. Chapter 94. Chapter 94, 9th grade physical body. 54969039. This was actually a body tempering cultivation technique. It seemed that Zheng was cultivating this flaming Vajra arts. Body tempering cultivation techniques were extremely rare in the Divine Wilderness continent. Furthermore, body tempering cultivation techniques were known for being difficult and slow to cultivate. By cultivating a body tempering technique, one's body would constantly become stronger and possess all sorts of unbelievable abilities. According to the strength of the body was divided into 9 grades. Rank 1 was the weakest and rank 9 was the strongest. There were 3 levels: lower tier, upper tier, and peak tier. However, the path of body refinement wasn't a single path. It was a type of martial Dao, a supplementary type. Just like the path of inscription, it supplemented the martial Dao. This was because if one's physical body wasn't combined with martial arts, one wouldn't be able to unleash the power it should have. For example, the 1st grade physical body was not corresponding to the martial warrior realm. Without genuine qi and all kinds of martial arts techniques, the body alone was just an empty force. A grade 1 body was no match for a warrior realm martial artist. Even if he had a 2nd grade body, he was no match for a martial warrior. However, this did not mean that one's body was weak and cultivation was useless. Body refinement was an auxiliary to martial arts. Once a strong body, genuine qi, and various martial arts techniques were combined, an unimaginable power would burst out. It wasn't as simple as 1 + 1 = 2, but it was an exponential increase. For example, the stronger one's physical body was, the more true energy one could unleash without any restraint, without having to worry about harming one's body. Some powerful martial skills and even secret skills were very harmful to the body. Without a strong body, one could not withstand them. Furthermore, the stronger one's physical body was, the more incredible one's abilities would be. The stronger one's physical body was, the stronger one's vitality and recovery rate would be. Even if one was injured, one would be able to recover very quickly. It was said that when one's physical body was strong enough, one could control the muscles, bones, and bones of the entire body. They could control every single strand of muscle, and they could instantly seal the wound when they were injured. He could also control his muscles and bones to change his shape and appearance. It was extremely wonderful. If he was stronger, he could even regrow a severed limb or even regrow a drop of blood. Of course, these were just legends. Therefore, the path of body refinement existed to support the path of martial arts. When combined with martial arts, it could produce a powerful force. Zheng Jia was a good example. He did not cultivate black-level martial arts techniques, but his physical body was much stronger than Lu Ming's. With a yellow-level upper-level martial arts technique, he could burst out with strength that could compete with Lu Ming. This was especially true for some close combat martial artists who cultivated palm, fist, and claw techniques. If they combined it with a strong body, their strength would increase to a terrifying level. Lu Ming hurriedly opened the flaming Vajra art and read it. After watching it, Lu Ming fell into deep thought. The Blaze Titan art can at most allow one to cultivate a 3rd grade body. From the looks of it, Zheng should have only cultivated to the great circle of 1st grade, not 2nd grade. That's enough. If I can cultivate a 3rd grade body, my strength will increase by at least a few times. Lu Ming's eyes gradually lit up. This wasn't just for show. As a martial artist's cultivation level increased, their true qi would also slowly temper their physical body, making it stronger. However, the process was too slow. It was said that once one reached the martial arts grandmaster realm, one's physical body would naturally improve to the first grade. However, that was not enough to satisfy the needs of a martial artist. The stronger one's cultivation was, the stronger and more condensed one's genuine qi would be. The pressure on one's meridians and physical body would also be stronger. Therefore, when a martial artist fought, he would subconsciously retain a part of his genuine qi to protect his meridians and physical body. Usually, one could unleash 100% of one's strength, but in the true sense, one couldn't even unleash 100% of one's strength. It was already good enough to unleash 80%. However, only after his body became strong could he not have any worries and be able to unleash all his true qi. This was especially true for Lu Ming. His essential qi was too strong and condensed. Hence, he subconsciously left more essential qi to protect his meridians and physical body. Therefore, to Lu Ming, this flaming Vajra art was more important than the black-level martial arts technique. Lu Ming put down the book after carefully studying the cultivation method of the flaming Vajra art. He looked at the fifth and last book. This book was not a cultivation technique or a battle technique, but a notebook. It was found in Zheng's storage ring. After flipping through it, the first few pages were of no importance to Lu Ming. He skipped through them and flipped through more than 10 pages. He found a few pages that had been marked before he saw the one that Lu Ming was interested in. These were the records of the extinct volcano. So that dormant volcano contains fire spirit milk, which is extremely useful for training the flaming Vajra arts. So the treasure Zhang is looking for is fire spirit milk. Lu Ming's eyes lit up after reading it. Initially, the progress of the body tempering technique was extremely slow. Lu Ming did not expect to cultivate the flaming Vajra arts to a profound level in a short period of time. It would not be of much use in a short period of time. However, it would be different if he had the fire spirit milk. He might be able to master the raging flame Vajra arts in a short time. He did not need much. As long as he could cultivate a first-grade body, it would be of great help to Lu Ming's combat strength. Let's go. Since we know, we can't miss this. After tidying up his things, Lu Ming had an idea. He left the Supreme Shrine and headed towards the central region, back to the vicinity of the extinct volcano. Roar! Roar! The roars of demonic beasts rang out. 5 or 6 demonic beasts held the corpses of the 10 Directions sword sect disciples in their mouths and ran away. It must have been the smell of blood that attracted the demonic beasts. Lu Ming ignored him and went to the path that the stone hunters, the disciples of the omnipresent sword sect, had asked to explore. There was a white powder mark here, and the outline of the road could be clearly seen. Lu Ming muttered to himself for a moment and then stepped forward. He didn't walk very quickly. He circulated his true qi throughout his body and observed the ground with all his attention. The terrain in this area was constantly changing. Just because it was fine before didn't mean it was fine now. Fortunately, there were no accidents along the way. Lu Ming successfully passed this section of the road. After walking through this path, they would reach the foot of the dead volcano. There were thick piles of black rocks here, and they were very stable, so there was no need to worry about any flames or lava spurting out. Lu Ming climbed up. The extinct volcano was not tall, only a few hundred meters. Very soon, Lu Ming reached the top. In the middle of the mountain peak was a huge hole that was hundreds of meters deep. Below it was a black crystal that was as black as ink. According to the Zheng family's ancient records, the fire spirit milk was right below this volcano. Without any hesitation, Lu Ming climbed down slowly along the walls. Soon, he climbed down the extinct volcano and reached the bottom. The black crystals below were extremely hard, and inside the wall of the extinct volcano, there was a deep pit. In the pit, Lu Ming saw a spiritual herb at a glance. This spiritual herb was fiery red and emitted a crystal-like luster. Flame crystal grass. Lu Ming was overjoyed to see the spiritual herb. This was one of the materials needed to cultivate the third level of the true war dragon technique. Lu Ming had come to the Lingnan fire field with the intention of finding the flame crystal grass. It was a pity that he had never found it, but he did not expect to find it here. Chapter 95. Chapter 95. Chapter 95 Refining the Body. 549690339. Not only that, when Lu Ming walked closer to take a look, there was a pool of liquid at the root of the flame crystal grass. There was not much of it, but it was fiery red and had a crystal-like feeling, like it was formed by melting fire jade. Fire spirit milk. This is the fire spirit milk. Lu Ming was overjoyed. There was indeed fire spirit milk here. No wonder the flame crystal grass could grow here. The fire spirit milk was a rare treasure of heaven and earth. It could only be formed in places with extremely rich fire-type spiritual qi, and it contained rich fire-type essence. Lu Ming stepped forward and with a wave of his hand, a jade box and a jade bottle appeared. The jade box was made of ordinary white jade. Lu Ming had prepared it himself to store the spiritual herbs. The jade bottle was found in Zheng's storage ring. It was made of fire jade, and was perfect for storing the fire spiritual milk. He took out a sword, carefully dug out the flame crystal grass, and placed it into a jade box. Then, he circulated his true qi and sucked the fire spirit milk into the jade bottle. It's quite a lot, at least 2 catties. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He had thought that it would be a great opportunity to have 1 catty. He did not expect to have 2 catties. If I refine all of this fire spirit milk, how strong will my physical body be? At the very least, I can cultivate to upper rank 1, right? Lu Ming pondered in his heart and kept the things. He did not stop and went up along the stone wall. It was a smooth journey and he did not encounter any threats. Very soon, Lu Ming walked out of the central area and returned to the outer area. After returning to the outer area, Lu Ming entered the Supreme Shrine directly. Sitting cross-legged, Lu Ming took out the flaming Vajra art and studied it in detail. Then, he took out the jade bottle that contained the fire spirit milk. Now, use the fire spirit milk to practice the raging flame Vajra art. Lu Ming opened the bottle and pondered for a moment. Then, he took a small sip. Boom! He swallowed a small mouthful of the fire spirit milk and it immediately erupted like a volcano. It emitted a scorching aura and violent energy that filled Lu Ming's entire body. Lu Ming's body was like a fireball. Nest, the energy of this fire spirit milk is too terrifying. It has exceeded my imagination. It's so hot and so painful. The energy of the fire spirit milk was extremely hot, burning Lu Ming's muscles, bones, and bones. In this situation, it was as if Lu Ming was being roasted in a raging fire. One could imagine the pain. I have to endure it. The reason why it hurts so much is because my body is too weak. I've never cultivated the path of body refinement before. I've only tempered it slowly with my true qi. After the first time, my body has improved, and the next time, it won't hurt so much. Lu Ming's mind word. He gritted his teeth and activated the flaming Vajra art. He started to absorb and refine this scorching energy. Whoosh! It was as if his body was a piece of iron that was being burned and forged in the raging flames. Lu Ming could even hear the sound of his body burning. This process lasted for a full 2 hours before the fire spirit milk's energy was completely refined. At this moment, the pain completely disappeared, and an extremely comfortable feeling spread throughout his body. My physical strength has indeed improved a lot. Lu Ming felt the changes in his body carefully. He discovered that although his body didn't become much stronger, his muscles were much tougher, and his entire body was filled with strength. His blood and qi surged in his veins, full of vitality. His body's functions were stronger than before. The raging inferno Vajra art and the fire spirit milk are a perfect match. I only refined a small mouthful of it, and it has such an improvement. Although I haven't reached the first grade physical body, I believe that I will soon reach it if this continues. Now, continue. Following that, Lu Ming took a small mouthful of fire spirit milk and continued to cultivate the raging flames Vajra arts. Just like before, when the fire spirit milk entered his body, it exploded with an intense fire attribute essence that was incomparably scorching. I wonder if the spirit-devouring bloodline is useful for the fire spirit milk. Lu Ming suddenly had an idea. Even before his bloodline had completely regrown, he was already able to quickly refine the power of elixirs. Then, could he quickly refine the power of the fire spirit milk now? He would know once he tried. Immediately, Lu Ming controlled his blood meridian and a powerful devouring force was produced at his spine. And NBSB, hoo. Immediately, the fire spirit milk's energy in his body was completely absorbed by his bloodline. Not long after, waves of gentler and purer energy gushed into Lu Ming's body. He circulated the flaming Vajra arts and absorbed all the energy into his body to improve his physical strength. It was different from devouring blood essence. When devouring blood essence, the blood meridian would absorb half of the energy and use it to strengthen itself. Only half of the essence would flow into Lu Ming's body. The fire spirit milk was different. All the energy surged into Lu Ming's body. Under the circulation of the flaming Vajra arts, the strength of Lu Ming's body was rapidly increasing. In just about 10 minutes, that small mouthful of fire spirit milk was completely refined, and he felt that his body had become stronger again. Moreover, he didn't feel any pain at all. If I had known earlier, I would have controlled my bloodline from the first bite. I wouldn't have to suffer so much. Lu Ming was full of regret. After resting for a while, he continued to refine the fire-transforming spiritual milk. A day later, about 2 to 3 taels of fire spirit milk had been refined. Lu Ming's physical body had broken through in one fell swoop and reached the first-grade physical body, reaching the initial success of the first-grade physical body. Boom! Lu Ming circulated the true war dragon technique. The dragon-shaped essential qi was like the water of a river, surging in Lu Ming's meridians without restraint. Boom! With genuine qi attached to his fist, he punched out. His fist passed through the air, creating a sonic boom. A transparent air wave rushed out. Strong, my body's quality is more than 10 times stronger than before. Whether it's my muscles, bones, meridians, or internal organs, they've all been strengthened by many times. The last time he was besieged by Yarrow Tianyu and his men, he was severely injured and took 7 to 8 days to recover. But now, Lu Ming believed that he would be fully recovered in 3 days. This was the benefit of having a strong body. Moreover, the combination of his physical body and Lu Ming's cultivation base had increased his combat strength by a large margin. Of course, if Lu Ming did not use his essential qi or martial arts techniques, a third-grade warrior would be able to defeat him easily if he fought with his physical body. The path of the physical body was not used as the main battle, but to support martial arts. I can't just focus on refining the fire spirit milk to improve my physical body. Otherwise, I won't be able to adapt to it all at once. I should go out and cultivate my spear arts now to get my physical body and martial arts in sync. I'll continue to cultivate my physical body after my physical body, true qi, and martial arts have perfectly integrated. Lu Ming then left the Supreme Shrine and returned to the central area to cultivate the fire-controlling spear technique. Just like that, Lu Ming cultivated his spear technique for a few days and refined some fire spiritual milk. As time passed, Lu Ming's spear technique and physical body were improving rapidly. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 days had passed. On the 23rd day, Lu Ming had refined the 2 catties of fire spirit milk. His physical body was improving at a rapid pace. He advanced from upper first grade to complete first grade and reached lower second grade. This had already surpassed the previous zheng. Chapter 96. Chapter 96, The Momentum of Heaven and Earth. 5496903339, compared to the substantial improvement of his physical body, the improvement of the fire gun technique was slower. It was still 1 step away from the 3rd level. After all, it was a black-grade martial arts technique, and the difficulty of cultivating it was much more difficult than yellow-grade martial arts techniques. Lu Ming's cultivation had not improved much either. He had not been deliberately killing demonic beasts or devouring their blood essence these days. Therefore, His cultivation had only reached the peak of the early 8th grade master realm. He was still one step away from the middle 8th grade master realm. And NBSB, hoo-hoo. Lu Ming was practicing his spear techniques in the middle of the Southridge fire field. He waved his long spear like a dancing dragon, bringing with it the sound of air explosions. It was as if a hurricane was blowing within a 10-meter radius. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Lu Ming felt that he was very close to the 3rd level. However, he was still lacking a little. It was like a layer of paper that he could not break through. Lu Ming's mind was immersed in the fire gun execution, trying his best to find the aura of a breakthrough. Boom, boom, boom. Right at this moment, a dull boom suddenly sounded. Lu Ming was shocked and stopped cultivating. Boom, boom, boom. The rumbling sounds continued, and it was even more intense than before. Even the ground started to shake. Roar, roar. The roars of the demonic beasts were heard. Then, Lu Ming saw that the demonic beasts seemed to have encountered something terrifying and were running for their lives. Boom, boom, boom. The shaking got louder, and the ground shook violently. Not good. Could it be a volcanic eruption? Let's go. Lu Ming's heart suddenly moved. Then, he was greatly shocked. He turned around and ran outside. Along the way, he saw at least a few hundred demon beasts running from the depths to the periphery. More than 10 minutes later, Lu Ming ran to the outer area and stopped to look at the inner area. Boom. At this moment, an earth-shattering boom was heard and the ground shook violently. Then, Lu Ming saw an unforgettable scene. A fiery red pillar of fire shot out from a mountain peak like a fire dragon, as if it was about to soar into the sky. The pillar of fire shot up into the sky and then dispersed like an extremely beautiful firework. Thick smoke billowed and pillars of fire shot into the sky, dyeing the horizon red. Is this the power of a volcanic eruption? They were simply too powerful. All of them gathered together and exploded at once. Their might could break the heavens and earth. This kind of might was simply too shocking. Was this the power of nature? Can human strength contend against it? Lu Ming looked at the scene of the volcano erupting in the distance in a daze. Fire! Gather! Burst! Might! Lu Ming seemed to be in a daze. His eyes were staring straight at the volcano in front of him as he mumbled to himself. Then, he couldn't help but take a step forward toward the central region. Boom! Boom! The volcano seemed to have accumulated too much energy and was constantly erupting. Fiery red lava was constantly spewing out. The more Lu Ming walked towards the central region, the clearer he could see. The might was also clearer. And NBSB, hoo-hoo. When Lu Ming reached the central area, he could not help but wave his long spear and cultivate the fire gun controlling art. Fire, magma explosion. Exploded. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. He remembered the 6th move of the fire gun controlling art. The 6th move was called explosion. This move was extremely powerful, but he had never succeeded in cultivating it. At this moment, he suddenly understood it. Buzz! The long spear suddenly stabbed into the ground. At the same time, the true chi in his body madly gathered at the tip of the spear. It condensed and did not dissipate. When the long spear stabbed into the ground, all the true chi suddenly burst out. Boom! A huge crater over 2 meters wide and 1 meter deep was created on the ground. What a powerful force! Was this the explosion? Moreover, the fire gun art has finally advanced to the 3rd level. Lu Ming's face revealed a happy smile. Just now, not only did he successfully display the explosion, but his fire gun art also reached the 3rd level. However, the amount of true chi consumed by this move is too terrifying. Lu Ming smiled helplessly. The explosion technique he had just used had directly consumed a third of his true chi. It seemed that he couldn't use this move too often and could only use it as a trump card. And NBSB, hoo-hoo. Following that, Lu Ming started to cultivate the fire gun controlling art. However, he stopped after 2 minutes. No, it doesn't feel right. Compared to a volcano, what I've comprehended is only its form and not its soul or its power. Lu Ming frowned and pondered. Boom, boom, boom. The volcano was still erupting with a terrifying might. Just by looking at it, one would feel a sense of fear. Right, this kind of might, I don't have this kind of might. Lu Ming's mind kept on thinking. His eyes were fixed on the erupting volcano in the distance, as if he was stunned. After an unknown amount of time, the volcanic eruption had stopped. However, he still stood there and pondered. In his mind, it was as if a volcano had appeared and was constantly erupting. Unknowingly, the long spear in Lu Ming's hands began to dance according to the moves of the fire gun controlling art. And NBSB, hoo. The spear's radiance whistled and the long spear pierced through the air. Lu Ming cultivated tirelessly. Suddenly, Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and his eyes lit up. That's right, the force of a volcano, the force of fire, is the force of control. Boom. Lu Ming suddenly thrust his spear. It was just an ordinary spear and not any of the moves in the fire gun technique. However, there was a mysterious power contained in it. Boom. This move stabbed into the ground. The ground suddenly exploded, sending gravel flying, and a large pit appeared. This huge pit was not the slightest bit smaller than the one he had created with the explosion move. Force. This is the energy of the fire. Lu Ming's eyes were extremely bright. He could not suppress the joy in his heart. This time, he had gained a lot from watching the volcanic eruption. Not only did he have a breakthrough in the fire gun control technique, but he also comprehended control force. Everything in the world had its own power. A mountain, with the momentum of a mountain, was majestic and vast. Water had the momentum of water. It could stir up huge waves and could also nurture life. The wind also had the momentum of the wind, which could destroy everything and change into nothing. Fire, of course, had its own momentum. It was scorching, violent, and destructive. Everything in the world had momentum. If a martial artist could comprehend it and use it, he could burst out with incredible power. Just now, Lu Ming's casual shot was actually as powerful as the explosion move. Then what if he added control force when he used the explosion? How powerful would it be? Lu Ming was extremely excited. He had never expected that he could actually comprehend the energy of control, the energy of fire. Force wasn't something that just anyone could comprehend. Only a small portion of extremely talented geniuses could comprehend it, and the number was astonishingly small. It was even rarer to be able to comprehend control force at the Master Realm. Since the establishment of the mystical sword sect, not many people had been able to do so. Chapter 97. Chapter 97, The Newcomer King from a Year Ago. 5496903339. Thereafter, Lu Ming continued to cultivate. He only stopped after 3 days. I've completely mastered the force of fire, but the level of fire is still very low. I've only just started. In the future, I'll need to continue cultivating and comprehending it. It's time to go back. I've been in the southern fire field for more than 40 days, and there's less than a month left before the 4-month deadline I promised Feng Wu. I can't go back on my word. Yarrow Tianyu, just you wait. Out of habit, Lu Ming searched the surroundings and caught a demonic beast. He rode the demonic beast and quickly headed back to the mystical sword sect. Lu Ming returned to the mystical sword sect 5 days later. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're back. As soon as he entered the dormitory, he ran into Pang Shi and Hua Kai, who were walking out together. When Pang Shi saw Lu Ming, he smiled happily. Big Rock, where are you guys going? Lu Ming asked curiously. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're back just in time. There's going to be a show to watch. Feng Lai from the Onyx Tortoise Hall is going to fight his 10th battle on the bronze platform today. If he wins this battle, there'll be one more person on the bronze ranking. Pang Shi said excitedly. Feng Xinglie? Who is Feng Xinglie? Lu Ming had a puzzled look. No way. Lu Ming, you don't even know Feng Xinglie? Hua Kai looked at Lu Ming in disdain. Lu Ming touched his nose with a bitter smile and nodded. All right, I lose to you. Hua Kai was speechless. He pouted and said, Feng Xinglie was the Rookie King a year ago. Haven't you heard of him? The Rookie King from a year ago? Lu Ming's interest was immediately piqued. That's right. He was the newcomer king from last year. Therefore, this battle is very meaningful. Among the two batches of disciples, the first one started to enter the bronze rank. The others haven't grown up yet, so it has attracted a lot of attention. Huakai explained. After what had happened last time, Huakai's attitude towards him had completely changed. He no longer had a stinky face all day long, shouting that he would defeat him in the future. Interesting. Let's go together. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. How strong was the newcomer king from a year ago? Moreover, he was originally going to the bronze platform. The three of them immediately rushed towards the bronze platform. The bronze platform was located in the middle of the four great academies. It was a battle platform. The bronze platform was surrounded by four huge stands that could accommodate 100,000 people. When Lu Ming and the rest arrived, the grandstand around the bronze platform was already packed with people. At a rough glance, there were at least tens of thousands of people. It's too lively. So many people have come. Pang Shi's eyes widened as he looked around. Lu Ming was also secretly amazed. There were only about 50,000 bronze disciples from the four great academies. This time, no less than 30,000 of them had come. It was clear how sensational this was. Other than a few who were out on missions or in seclusion, most of the people who knew about the news came. The three of them found a place to sit down, and the surrounding people began to discuss. Do you think Feng Xinglie will succeed in his challenge? The opponent is also a ruthless person with 9 consecutive victories. In my opinion, Feng Lai will definitely win. He was the new disciple king last year. He's terrifyingly talented. As the first disciple to enter the bronze rank in the last 2 batches, he must be very confident. I also think that Feng Xinglie will win. Didn't you see that Feng Xinglie had 9 consecutive battles yesterday? He won all 9 of them. His combat strength is terrifying. I don't think he has even used his full strength. 10 consecutive wins will definitely not be a problem. What I am more concerned about is whether Feng Xinglie will continue to challenge after he wins. Continue the challenge? Then I'll have to challenge the geniuses on the bronze rank. If that's the case, I'll have a good look today. Not only in this area, but the people around the bronze platform were also discussing this. Feng Xinglie was the first one to make it to the bronze rank, so he naturally attracted a lot of attention. Previously, the bronze ranking was filled with genius disciples who had joined the mystical sword sect 2 years ago. For example, Yarrow Tianyu had joined 2 years ago. Feng Xinglie is here. Suddenly, someone shouted. Following that, the entire place fell silent. A young man in a yellow shirt was walking toward them from the northern entrance of the bronze platform. The young man had an ordinary appearance, but he was very young. He looked to be only 16 or 17 years old. With a long sword on his back, he slowly ascended the bronze platform. Then, he stood there quietly. At this moment, a middle-aged man walked up to the bronze platform. This middle-aged man was the elder in charge of managing and presiding over the bronze platform. He was also the judge. He would sort out the situation of the duels on the bronze platform and report it to the sect. Feng Xinglie, your opponent today is Sun Guang. Sun Guang, please come up the stage. The middle-aged judge announced loudly, his voice reverberating throughout the entire court. Buzz. As soon as the judge finished speaking, the sound of air being torn could be heard. A young man of about 18 or 19 years old leaped up a few times and moved as fast as lightning. He was much faster than Lu Ming when he used the dragon serpent steps at full force. He landed on the bronze platform in an instant, displaying his extremely brilliant movement technique. So fast. With this kind of movement technique, I wouldn't even be able to react in time if I were to fight him. Many people sighed. Sun Guang leaped onto the bronze platform and stood opposite Feng Xinglie. Feng Xinglie, I didn't expect it to be a battle between the two of us. Haha, that's good. As long as I defeat you, I will be able to enter the bronze rank. Although you were the new generation king a year ago and have extraordinary talent, you are still too young. It's still too early for you to fight me. Sun Guang laughed. Someone said the same thing yesterday, but he couldn't block my sword. Feng Xinglie's calm voice came out of his mouth. He seemed very confident. Sun Guang's face suddenly darkened. I believe that everyone is aware of the rules of the bronze platform. However, I would like to re-explain the rules here. On the bronze platform, one is responsible for one's own life and death. However, as long as one person admits defeat, the battle will end. The other person is not allowed to continue attacking. If one violates this rule, all results will be cancelled. Also, you can use any means except for pills and other drugs to increase your combat strength. Now, the battle begins. The middle-aged judge announced loudly and then stepped aside. Buzz. As soon as the judge finished speaking, Sun Guang's body flashed and he charged towards Feng Xinglie. He was even faster than when he was on the stage. Moon Shadow Light Splitting Sword, slash. When he was 10 meters away from Feng Xinglie, Sun Guang jumped up high and swung his sword. A dense, crescent-shaped sword chi slashed towards Feng Xinglie. What a powerful sword technique. This is definitely the 6th level of a yellow-grade upper-level martial arts technique. Someone near Lu Ming could not help but cheer. Lu Ming's gaze flickered slightly. He could tell that Sun Guang had not only cultivated the yellow-level upper-class sword technique to the 6th level, but his body technique was also at the 6th level of the yellow-level upper-class body technique. Furthermore, his cultivation was at the peak of the 9th grade master realm. With the addition of his bloodline, his combat strength could not be said to be weak. An existence that could obtain 9 consecutive victories was indeed extraordinary. Chapter 98. Chapter 98, A New Genius on the Bronze List. 5496903339, Buzz. At this moment, Feng Xinglie moved. With a sword cry, he unsheathed his sword. Not many people clearly saw how he pulled out the sword. Most people only heard the sound of the sword, and then saw a white sword light flash in the air. Then, everyone saw the dense sword chi that Sun Guang had slashed out disappear without a trace. Then, Sun Guang grunted and his body flew far away, falling on the fighting ring. What was going on? Many people looked at each other, not knowing what had happened, because it had happened too quickly. Many people only saw Sun Guang launch an attack, and then saw a flash of sword light, and Sun Guang flew out. What was happening? Did Sun Guang lose? On the side, Pang Shi was tongue-tied. Hua Kai was also puzzled. That's right, Sun Guang lost. He was defeated by Feng Xinglie with one strike. Look at Sun Guang's chest, there's a wound. Lu Ming answered. The person beside Lu Ming quickly looked over. Indeed, he saw a deep sword wound on Sun Guang's chest. Blood was flowing out continuously. Others might not have seen it clearly, but Lu Ming saw it clearly. Just now, Feng Xinglie pulled out his sword and attacked. With one strike, he destroyed all of Sun Guang's attacks and left a wound on Sun Guang's chest. What a fast sword, and what a powerful attack. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he was somewhat amazed. He concluded that the sword technique that Feng Xinglie used was definitely a black-grade martial skill. In the fighting ring, Sun Guang struggled to get up. His face was still filled with shock. He cupped his fists and said, I've lost. Thank you for showing mercy, junior brother Feng. He knew that if Feng Xinglie didn't retract a part of his power, he would have been dead. Thanks for letting me win. Feng Xinglie cupped his fists. Sun Guang did not say anything more. He turned around and left the fighting ring, disappearing without a trace. If he was defeated, his past achievements would be cancelled and he would have to accumulate them again. The middle-aged judge stepped forward and announced, Feng Xinglie is the winner of this battle. He's on the bronze list. Following the referee's announcement, the entire venue erupted into an uproar. He did it. Feng Lai did it. As a new disciple in the last 2 years, he was the first one to make it to the bronze rank. He's the representative of all the new disciples in the last 2 years. Amazing. Feng Xinglie is so amazing. He has entered the bronze rank in less than 2 years. He is indeed the king of the new disciples. Other than him, the others who have entered the sect in the past 2 years will need at least half a year to enter the bronze rank. That's right, the previous new generation king, Feng Xinglie, is considered extremely powerful. Do you guys think he'll continue to challenge? I really hope he continues to challenge. Did you see that more than half of the geniuses ranked below 30th on the bronze rank are here? Gasps of admiration could be heard all around. Pang Shuo, who was standing beside Lu Ming, was also very excited. One day, I'll also be on the bronze list. Hua Kai clenched his fists and said confidently, "Love-struck fool, I believe you can do it. Both you and senior brother Lu will be fine. I don't know if I will have a chance in this life." Pang Shuo said longingly. Lu Ming patted Pang Shuo's shoulder and said with a smile, "Big Rock, you're working so hard. You can definitely do it." When Pang Shuo had first joined the sect, he had been in the 9th grade warrior realm. After half a year of cultivation, he had broken through to the peak of the 1st grade master realm. Although his cultivation speed was not fast, he took it one step at a time and his foundation was very solid. Fengxing Lai, you are now ranked 57th on the bronze list. You are qualified to challenge the geniuses on the bronze list. Do you still want to challenge them? The middle-aged judge asked. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on Fengxing Lai. They were all very curious. Would he continue to challenge? Fengxing Lai didn't reply. He seemed to be thinking. Who do you think Fengxing Lai will challenge if he continues? It's hard to say, but he'll definitely challenge those who are ranked 45th and above on the bronze rank, because they're in the same class. That's right. If he wants to fight today, he can only challenge the geniuses on the bronze list. Look, Duanmu who is ranked 55th, Yaro Tianyu who is ranked 51st, Yang Shu who is ranked 50th, and Jidong who is ranked 48th are all here. He is most likely to challenge them. Sounds of discussion and speculation rang out in the surroundings. Yao Tianyu? Lu Ming's gaze shifted. He followed the others' gazes and saw Yao Tianyu on the eastern grandstand. Yao Tianyu crossed his arms and sat there calmly. Beside him, there were more than a dozen minions. He Tai, the red-robed youth, and the others were all familiar faces. Senior brother Yao, do you think Fengxing Lai will challenge you? A young man asked. I don't know. Yao Tianyu replied indifferently. Then, if Fengxing Lai challenges you, are you confident? The young man asked again. Although Fengxing Lai's sword of essence restoring is powerful, it's not enough to challenge me. Yao Tianyu replied confidently. That's for sure. How can this Fengxing Lai be a match for senior brother Yao? If he overestimates himself and challenges senior brother Yao, he's just looking for trouble. The red-robed young man immediately began to flatter him. Yao Tianyu smiled as he looked down at the fighting ring. On the fighting ring, Fengxing Lai pondered for a while and replied, I choose to continue the challenge. As soon as he said that, the atmosphere in the hall exploded. Everyone stared at Fengxing Lai, waiting to see who he would challenge. Fengxing Lai's eyes scanned the stands and then landed on the west side. Duanmu who, come down and fight. Fengxing Lai said loudly. On the west side of the stands, a burly young man stood up with a gloomy expression. Fengxing Lai, are you sure you want to challenge me? Of course. Fengxing Lai said. Haha, good. Fengxing Lai, I will make you regret your choice. Duanmu who laughed in anger. It was not a glorious thing to be challenged by someone who had just entered the bronze rank. On the contrary, it was an embarrassing thing. It was simple. Being challenged meant that you were weak and looked down on. Bzzzzz. Duanmu who jumped down from the stands. With a few leaps, he crossed a distance of more than 100 meters and arrived on the fighting ring. The speed of his movement technique was no weaker than Sun Guang's. The two of them stood facing each other. I didn't expect Fengxing Lai to challenge Duanmu Hu. This is going to be interesting, said an old disciple in his 20s not far from Lu Ming. Oh, how is it interesting? The others asked. Even Lu Ming, Pang Shuo, and the others looked at him. The senior disciple felt proud that he had attracted so many people all of a sudden. Letting out a dry cough, he said, you guys should have seen it just now. Fengxing Lai's sword technique is extremely fast, and the power that burst out in an instant is extremely powerful. This sword technique is a black-grade low-level martial skill, origin sword. This sword technique is extremely powerful, but it has a weakness. It consumes a lot of true qi. If I can't defeat the enemy with one strike, I'll be in danger. Lu Ming nodded in his heart. This sword of returning to origin was quite similar to the explosion of the fire gun technique. Chapter 99. Chapter 99. My battle has only just begun. 54969039. The senior disciple continued to explain, however, the martial skill that Duanmu who practices is the exact opposite of Feng Xinglia's. Duanmu who practices a defensive black-grade low-level martial skill, Heavenly Tiger body protection technique. One is for defense, and the other is for attack. Isn't this very interesting? Everyone came to a realization. Feng Xinglia and Duanmu who were like a spear and a shield. They were the exact opposite. This battle would determine whether Feng Xinglia's spear attack was stronger or Duanmu whose shield defense was stronger. Whoever was stronger would win. This situation was not only happening here, it was happening everywhere. Many senior disciples had been in the sect for 5 to 8 years. Their cultivation might not be high, but they had sharp eyes and knew a lot of information. Many people were even more interested now that they knew the martial techniques that the two were good at. Now, let the battle begin, the judge announced and retreated to the side. Boom! Boom! Instantly, Feng Xinglia and Duanmu whose bodies exploded with powerful auras. Their auras collided in the air. At this moment, Feng Xinglia moved. He unsheathed his long sword and the sword light was like a bolt of lightning. It pierced through the air and stabbed towards Duanmu who. One sword of essence restoring. This sword was even stronger than the previous one. That was because Feng Xinglia had activated his bloodline. 6 chakras meant a level 6 bloodline. This was the first time Lu Ming had seen a martial artist with level 6 blood meridian. This sword was extremely stunning. Everyone's eyes could not help but stare at it. Boom! Duanmu who took a heavy step forward, followed by a tiger's roar. Around his body, 2 fierce tigers condensed from genuine qi appeared. The 2 ferocious tigers leaped and roared around Duanmu whose body, surrounding him so tightly that not even water could escape. Feng Xinglia, let's see how you're going to break my defense. Duanmu who roared. In an instant, Feng Xinglia's long sword pierced through Duanmu who. Roar! The 2 tigers roared and blocked Duanmu who's way, clashing with Feng Xinglia's sword. The point where the long sword and the fierce tiger met glowed with a piercing light. However, everyone was staring at the fighting ring and did not dare to look away, for fear of missing the exciting moment. This was definitely a battle that could be decided in one move. If Feng Fenglai could break through Duanmu whose defense, then Feng Fenglai would definitely win. On the other hand, Duanmu who would win. Would Feng Xinglia be able to break through Duanmu whose defense? Boom! All of a sudden, a loud boom could be heard as Feng Xinglia and Duanmu who crossed each other. Who won? Bang! Suddenly, Duanmu whose body fell to his knees and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone could see that there was a deep gash on his chest, just like Sun Guang's. I've lost. Duanmu who stood up and left without looking back. Duanmu who was defeated, and the whole place was in an uproar. Wonderful, truly wonderful. Although it was only one move, it was the peak confrontation of attack and defense. Not bad, today's trip was not in vain. Do you guys think Feng Xinglia will continue to challenge? I don't think so. His bloodline has exploded. It's hard for him to recover in a short time. That's true. At the same time, the judge on the fighting ring announced Feng Xinglia's victory. Under the admiring and envious gazes of the audience, Feng Xinglia slowly walked down the fighting ring. Amazing, that's amazing. Senior brother Lu Ming, love-struck fool, let's go back. I must work harder in my cultivation and strive to be on the bronze ranking in the future, Pang Shi said with determination. Go back. The battle isn't over yet, why should we go back? Lu Ming smiled faintly. The battle isn't over yet. Beside Lu Ming, Pang Shi, Hua Kai, and the others were all stunned. Wasn't the duel over? Lu Ming had not finished yet. Feng Xinglia's battle has ended, but mine has just begun. Lu Ming smiled, then got up and leaped down from the fighting ring. In a few breaths, Lu Ming floated up to the bronze platform. Lu. What is senior brother Lu Ming doing? Pang Shi said in a daze. The others were also stunned. It seems that Lu Ming wants to challenge the bronze platform today. At this moment, Hua Kai's eyes were extremely bright and shining. At the same time, he was also slightly shocked. What? Senior brother Lu Ming wants to challenge the bronze platform? Pang Shi was extremely shocked. The other people nearby were also shocked. The disciples of the 4 courtyards around the bronze platform were ready to leave the arena. They were all stunned when they saw a figure suddenly fly up the platform. Who is that? What are you doing on the bronze platform now? Hey! Wasn't that Lu Ming? This year's newcomer king, Lu Ming. So he is Lu Ming. What does he want to do? Is he going to challenge the bronze platform? That's impossible, right? Even if he's the newcomer king, he's only this year's newcomer king. It's still too early for him to challenge the bronze stage. Not bad. There was a burst of discussion in the surroundings, but those who had wanted to leave sat back down. On the fighting ring, the middle-aged judge, who was about to leave, and Feng Xinglie, who had already walked to the edge of the fighting ring, both stopped. Lu Ming, what do you want to do on stage? The middle-aged judge asked with a smile. Elder, Lu Ming requests to challenge the bronze platform. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. As soon as he said that, the crowd instantly boiled over. Whoa, you really want to challenge the bronze platform? He's too arrogant and too anxious. Lu Ming is only the newcomer king this year and he wants to challenge the bronze platform? You're too anxious. He's just a kid. From what I can see, he's just envious of Feng Xinglie's consecutive victories. That's why he's charging at Feng Xinglie. There's almost no chance of him winning if he challenges Feng Xinglie now. That's not necessarily true. I heard that 3 months ago, during the battle when he demolished the Star Moon Tower, he revealed that his combat strength was not weaker than a 9th grade Master Realm martial artist. So what? What was the use of a 9th grade master on the bronze platform? Which of the people on the bronze platform had combat strength lower than 9th grade Master Realm? I acknowledge Lu Ming's talent. However, he just joined the sect this year. In another year, I don't deny that he will be able to enter the bronze rank like Feng Lai. But now, it's almost impossible. Cultivation isn't enough to challenge the bronze platform. Cultivation can be improved quickly if you have some natural treasures, but martial arts and secret skills take time to comprehend. Those on the bronze list who can cultivate profound level martial arts techniques are all talented and spend a lot of time to comprehend them. Maybe he just wants to win a few more times before he stops. You'll stop after a few consecutive wins? He's the newcomer king, not an ordinary disciple. If he's going to give up after winning a few rounds, then he'd rather not go up the stage. That would be even more embarrassing. That's true. There was a clamor at the scene, but the discussion was almost one-sided. Everyone felt that Lu Ming was too impulsive and should not challenge now. He should lie low like Feng Xinglie and wait for his combat strength to reach a certain level before he exploded and shocked the world. In the southern stands, Pang Shi and the others were still in a daze. Hua Kai, you. How many consecutive wins do you think senior brother Lu Ming can achieve? Can you get on the bronze list? Pang Shi asked in a daze. Lu Ming, I really can't see through him anymore. However, he's not an impulsive person. Since he went up, he must have some confidence. Hua Kai said. Even though he said this, shock still remained in Hua Kai's eyes. That's true. I also believe in senior brother Lu Ming. Pang Shi scratched his head. Nearby, the others heard this and looked at them with disdain. They felt that the two of them were too blind. Chapter 100. Chapter 100. Chapter 100 Settled with one sword. 5496903339. On the East Grandstand. Lu Ming, it's that little bastard Lu Ming. He's really overestimating himself. He really came to challenge the bronze platform. The red-robed youth beside Yao Tianyu shouted. He is indeed overestimating himself, but it's just as well. We can send people to kill him. Senior brother Yao, what do you think? The other young man said coldly, then looked at Yao Tianyu. Yao Tianyu looked at Lu Ming on the platform and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Sure. He had been looking for an opportunity to kill Lu Ming. Since Lu Ming had come up to the bronze platform on his own, he would not let this opportunity go. In the stands in other directions, some geniuses on the bronze ranking also looked at Lu Ming with curious expressions. On the bronze platform. Lu Ming, are you really going to challenge the bronze platform? The middle-aged judge asked in surprise. Not bad. Lu Ming nodded again. All right, since you've decided, I won't stop you. Let the challenge begin. The middle-aged judge announced in a straightforward manner. At the side of the fighting ring, Feng Xinglie cast a curious glance at Lu Ming. His eyes glimmered and he flew to the northern stands to watch with great interest. At this moment, the judge had already made the announcement, and the entire venue quieted down instead. Everyone began to watch seriously. The last newcomer king had just made it to the bronze rank, and now this year's newcomer king was challenging him again. It was really interesting. This had never happened before in the history of the mystical sword sect. How far could Lu Ming go? Many people were curious. Who wants to fight me first? Lu Ming looked around and said in a clear voice. The first 5 matches on the bronze stage were more casual, and anyone could go up and challenge them. However, after 5 rounds, it would be necessary for people with the same winning streak to fight each other. Otherwise, it would not be able to show their strength at all. The people below the 9th grade master realm fell silent. Although they felt that Lu Ming could not win more than a few rounds, Lu Ming's abilities were still there. A few months ago, he already had the combat strength of a 9th grade master. I'll fight you. A figure quickly jumped onto the fighting ring. It's Duanmu Jinming from the White Tiger Hall. It's said that his cultivation has already reached the mid-stage of the 9th grade master realm. As soon as this person went up the stage, there were cries around him. Duanmu Jinming was in his 20s. His face was pale and his eyes were malicious. He stared at Lu Ming and sneered. Lu Ming, you really don't know how to hold back. You actually came to challenge the bronze platform now. Haha, I'll make you stop in the first round. The newcomer king is going to challenge the bronze platform and stop in the first round. This will definitely create a record in the mystical sword sect and will be remembered for centuries. Duanmu Jinming's tone was filled with mockery and mockery. Your Duanmu family is indeed the first to come. However, I've discovered that your Duanmu family has a common trait. You have no skills at all, but you're very good at boasting. Lu Ming said indifferently. The Duanmu family members were furious. Damn it, how dare you look down on my Duanmu family? Duanmu Jinming, cripple him. Let him know the power of the Duanmu family. Cripple him. Duanmu Jinming's eyes were also extremely gloomy. He said coldly, Lu Ming, you'll pay a painful price for what you said. Duanmu Jinming unsheathed his long sword, and a white sword light shot out from it. It was extremely sharp. Lu Ming waved his hand and a huge sword that was as wide as a palm and 1.5 meters long appeared in his hand. Zheng had left this great sword behind. There was no need to use the fire-patterned gun to deal with such a small fry. Moreover, Lu Ming wanted to test if he could exert the power of the lustrous sword technique with such a huge sword after his physical body had improved. Alright, I don't need to say more about the rules. Let the battle begin. The middle-aged judge announced. Hurry up, I don't have that much time. There are still more than 10 matches to go. Lu Ming said calmly. His tone was full of disdain, as if he didn't take Duanmu Jinming seriously at all. He even said that there were more than 10 matches to go, as if he could really win 10 times in a row. Nest, you're really arrogant. That's right. He's too arrogant. However, the more arrogant he is, the more embarrassed he will be when he is defeated later. The surroundings were filled with discussions. Damn it, I'll cripple you. Duanmu Jinming roared in anger. He moved and continued to charge toward Lu Ming. Fierce tiger sword technique. Duanmu Jinming let out a long howl and swung his combat sword. The illusionary image of a ferocious tiger could be vaguely seen on the combat sword. It was extremely ferocious as it slashed toward Lu Ming. A middle 9th grade master realm cultivator only has this much strength. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth twitched slightly and he swung his sword. This strike was very direct. It was not a sword technique, but a casual slash. It was completely a brute force slash. Clang. This sword directly hit Duanmu Jinming's combat sword. Then, everyone saw that Duanmu Jinming's combat sword was bent and deformed, and the blade heavily hit Duanmu Jinming's own chest. Duanmu Jinming's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Boom. With a loud boom, Duanmu Jinming's body flew backward like a cannonball. He flew more than 20 meters and then slid more than 10 meters on the fighting ring before falling off. The entire place suddenly fell into a deathly silence, and the atmosphere seemed to have frozen at this moment. Many people were even loudly criticizing Lu Ming's arrogant words. However, at this moment, their expressions froze. One sword. He had only used one sword. It was an ordinary sword, but Duanmu Jinming had been blown out of the fighting ring. Wasn't he too strong? Wasn't the difference too great? Alright, senior brother Lu Ming is the best. Pang Shi reacted and shouted in excitement. At this moment, the others also reacted. Isn't he too powerful? Finishing Duanmu Jinming with one move? Indeed. It seems like I've underestimated Lu Ming. In my opinion, Lu Ming should be at the late stage of the 9th grade Master Realm, or even the peak of the 9th grade Master Realm. With this strength, it shouldn't be a problem for him to win 5 times in a row. The newcomer king is the newcomer king. We've underestimated him. Many people's faces turned grave. Those who had belittled Lu Ming earlier felt their faces turn red. Is there anyone else who wants to come up and fight? Lu Ming did not even look at Duanmu Jinming, who had just left the fighting ring. He continued to look around. I'll do it. Then, a young man jumped onto the fighting ring. Junior brother Lu Ming, please guide me along. The young man was at the late 9th grade Master Realm, but he did not dare to look down on Lu Ming anymore. He cupped his fists and said politely, "Sure, please." Lu Ming said with a smile. Boom. This young man was using an iron rod, and when he waved it, it whistled through the air with extraordinary power. Lu Ming was slightly more polite to this young man. He used 10 moves before he blasted him off the fighting ring. 2 consecutive wins. Chapter 101. Chapter 101. Chapter 101 Sweeping all the way. 5496903339. On the eastern stands, Yarou Tianyu's face darkened. The rest of the people's faces were also extremely ugly. Damn it. Lu Ming's cultivation has improved so much in just a few months. Senior brother Yarou, you must kill him. Otherwise, he might really make it to the bronze rank after some time. The red-robed young man said. Why don't we let Jiang Hao go? A young man suggested. Yarou Tianyu nodded and instructed. Jiang Hao, you go up. Don't hold back. Don't give Lu Ming a chance to admit defeat. On the side, a thin youth laughed coldly and said, Senior brother Yarou, don't worry. I won't give him the chance to say the words I admit defeat. Then, like a ghost, his body flickered a few times and appeared on the fighting ring. Isn't this Jiang Hao? Jiang Hao from the Azure Dragon Hall. Yes, that's him. Why did he make a move? Lu Ming is in danger. A year ago, Jiang Hao had achieved 5 consecutive victories. However, for some reason, he has not participated in the Bronze Platform Challenge this year. Hence, his results were automatically cancelled. However, his ability is definitely above 5 consecutive victories. It seems like Yarou Tianyu has made a move. Lu Ming has once offended Yarou Tianyu. Let's see how Lu Ming will deal with this. As soon as Jiang Hao went on stage, there was a heated discussion. Did Yarou Tianyu ask you to come up? Lu Ming looked at Jiang Hao. Just now, he had seen Jiang Hao's figure beside Yarou Tianyu. Hee. Lu Ming, I wasn't around when we were at the Star Moon Tower the last time. Otherwise, you would have been a corpse by now. But it's not too late now. If you want to admit defeat, do it now. Wait a moment. I won't give you any chance. Jiang Hao laughed coldly. This sentence is exactly what I wanted to say to you. Lu Ming said indifferently. At that moment, the judge announced the start of the match. Buzz. As soon as the judge finished speaking, Jiang Hao's figure disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already more than 20 meters away. Then, in a flash, he was in front of Lu Ming. His figure was as fast as a ghost. Buzz! At this moment, Jiang Hao suddenly drew a long sword from his waist. This was a soft sword, one wrapped around Jiang Hao's waist. At this moment, it was suddenly pulled out, making it impossible to guard against. In addition, Jiang Hao's movement technique was extremely fast. He was like an assassin walking in the dark. Generally, even if one's cultivation was higher than his, they would still fall for his tricks. Unfortunately, Lu Ming was not an ordinary person. Ultimate flowing light. Lu Ming used the huge sword to perform the fastest move of the lustrous sword technique. In the past, he had used a thin sword to perform the lustrous sword technique, and the sword whistle was sharp and dense. Now, he used a giant sword. The speed was equally fast, but the sword whistle was like thunder. Poochie. A head flew high into the air and then rolled down the fighting ring, leaving a headless corpse on the fighting ring. Blood splattered everywhere. One move after another, Jiang Hao, who had won 5 consecutive victories, was killed on the fighting ring. This time, even some geniuses on the bronze list looked serious. What a fast swordsmanship, and what powerful strength. This Lu Ming's swordsmanship cultivation is actually average. However, his explosive power is too strong, causing the speed of his swordsmanship to increase by a large margin. He killed Jiang Hao with a single slash. Could he have cultivated the body-tempering Dao? The geniuses on the bronze list murmured to themselves. Lu Ming wins, the middle-aged judge announced. Then, he called for people to clean up the fighting ring and carry Jiang Hao's body away. Bang! On the eastern stands, Yarou Tianyu slammed the armrest of his seat. True energy gushed out and shattered the armrest. If I'm not mistaken, Lu Ming should have cultivated the body-tempering path. He Tai said. That's right. He must have cultivated the body-tempering path. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such explosive power. However, he didn't cultivate the body-tempering path last time. In just 3 months, his body can't be that strong. He Tai, if Lu Ming wins 8 matches in a row, go up and finish him off. Yarou Tianyu ordered. En. He Tai nodded. At this moment, Lu Ming cast his gaze toward the east grandstand. Yarou Tianyu, why did you send your men to their deaths? Don't worry, it'll be your turn soon. Lu Ming said in a clear voice. Provocation. This was a blatant provocation. Everyone's gaze shifted from Lu Ming to Yarou Tianyu. They could not help but recall the grudge between Lu Ming and Yarou Tianyu more than 3 months ago. This is getting interesting. Many people revealed looks of anticipation. This year's newcomer king was too domineering. He actually dared to speak to Yarou Tianyu like that. Who knew what the consequences would be? Ha ha ha. Yarou Tianyu laughed out of anger, the killing intent in his eyes unconcealed. He sneered, Lu Ming, I really hope that you can win 10 matches in a row and challenge me on the bronze rank. Then, I'll let you know what despair is. Yarou Tianyu, you and your dog are really the same. Just now, Jiang Hao told me to admit defeat as soon as possible, otherwise I wouldn't have a chance. In the end, the facts have proven that he is just a useless person with a mouthful of nonsense. Now, you are the same. Birds of a feather really do flock together. Lu Ming pursed his lips. Lu Ming, let's see who's the one spouting nonsense. Yarou Tianyu snorted coldly. His face darkened, but he did not say anything more. Lu Ming smiled faintly and looked around. Now, who is going to fight me? The scene fell silent. They looked at each other, and for a moment, no one went up. Lu Ming's combat strength was also revealed just now. Jiang Hao was killed by a single sword. He definitely had the strength to win 7 or even 8 times in a row. Who would go up and look for a beating? After a long while, a young man jumped onto the fighting ring. However, the young man was very polite. He cupped his fists and said, Junior brother Lu Ming is a dragon among men. I know that I'm no match for you, but I can't help but want to spar with you. I hope that you'll show mercy. As the saying went, one should not slap a smiling face. Since he was being polite, Lu Ming smiled and said, "You're welcome. Let's have a spar then." The young man was not weak either. After the start of the competition, Lu Ming deliberately went easy on him. After exchanging more than 10 moves with him, the young man admitted defeat. Following that, there were no obstacles at all. 5 wins, 6 wins, 7 wins. In the end, he won 8 times in a row. The people behind him had no grudges with Lu Ming and were very polite to him. Therefore, Lu Ming did not unleash much of his strength and only won by a slight advantage. In particular, in the 8th battle, he fought against a young expert who had won 7 times in a row. Lu Ming even suppressed his cultivation and exchanged more than 30 moves with him before he won by a slight margin. This made many people think that Lu Ming's combat strength should be around 8 consecutive wins. Lu Ming smiled faintly. If he did not do this, how could he catch a big fish? "He Tai, I have a rough idea of Lu Ming's abilities. You can make your move," Yarrow Tianyu ordered. "Don't worry, senior brother Yarrow. I'll break all the bones in his body." He Tai smiled cruelly and went up the fighting ring. Chapter 102. Chapter 102, Fighting He Tai Empty-Handed. 549690339, He Tai has made his move. It's really him. This is going to be interesting. He Tai's body is extremely tough and his close combat ability is extremely strong. Lu Ming seems to have cultivated the body tempering path as well. Between the two of them, who do you think will win? It's hard to say. It's been a few months since He Tai won 8 consecutive victories. He must be stronger now. However, Lu Ming, this year's newcomer king, has risen too quickly. It's really shocking. No one knows if he has any trump cards. Therefore, it's hard to say for sure what will happen in this battle. Yep. I didn't come here in vain. Everyone was staring at the fighting ring with great interest. Lu Ming had exceeded everyone's expectations. He was just a new disciple this year, but he had won 8 consecutive battles. As long as he won 2 more matches, he would be able to enter the bronze ranking. This was a rare sight in the history of the mystical sword sect. What everyone was concerned about was whether he could win or not. Would He Tai be able to stop him? On the fighting ring, Lu Ming and He Tai stood opposite each other. "Lu Ming, you were saved by Mulan last time. Let's see who can save you this time." He Tai revealed a cruel smile. Lu Ming touched his forehead speechlessly and said, "Look, here you go again. I said birds of a feather flock together. Did Yarrow Tianyu teach you this? Let me teach you. It's the right of the strong to say such words. The weak have no right to say such things." Ha ha ha. There was a burst of laughter from the surroundings. Lu Ming's words were obviously mocking Yarrow Tianyu. This was too interesting. You'll soon understand who's the strong one. He Tai's expression was extremely dark as he spoke. "Oh, really? What you're good at is nothing more than your body and your fists. Then I'll use my fists to compete with you." Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then, he waved his hand and the giant sword disappeared. He was facing He Tai with his bare hands. This action caused the scene to fall into a clamor again. What? Lu Ming isn't using any weapons. He wants to fight He Tai with his fists. That's not wise. That's not wise. Lu Ming has underestimated his enemy. Isn't he using his own weakness against the enemy's strength? He's still young, so he's still too careless. I don't think so. Lu Ming doesn't seem like an unwise person. On the East Grandstand. Haha, Lu Ming is really courting death. I didn't expect him to be so stupid to compete with He Tai in fist combat. Stupid, I thought he was a big shot. Beside Yarrow Tianyu, the red-robed young man and the others laughed mockingly. Yarrow Tianyu's eyes flickered, and his brows furrowed slightly, but he did not say anything. On the fighting ring, He Tai was ecstatic when he saw that Lu Ming had put away his sword. He shouted, "Lu Ming, you said it yourself. Don't go back on your word later." Initially, he was only 60 to 70% confident that he could defeat Lu Ming. However, now that Lu Ming had abandoned his combat sword, he immediately felt that he had 100% confidence that he could kill Lu Ming. How could he not be happy? Lu Ming, This was the typical rhythm of seeking death. Don't worry. Lu Ming, never go back on my word. But don't admit defeat later, Lu Ming said with an inexplicable smile on his lips. Don't worry. If I admit defeat today, I'll roll down from here. He Tai said immediately, as if he was afraid that Lu Ming would go back on his words. However, in the stands, Yao Tianyu's brows furrowed even more. He did not know why, but when he saw Lu Ming's calm and composed expression, the bad feeling in his heart grew stronger. The judge announced the start of the match. Ha ha, take this. He Tai roared, his muscles bulging. There was a layer of faint black light on his skin, making his muscles look like pieces of black iron. He Tai looked like a steel monster. Bang! Bang! He Tai strode forward, each step covering a distance of 10 meters. Every step he took on the fighting ring made a violent boom. Within a few breaths, He Tai was in front of Lu Ming. His huge fist was aimed at Lu Ming's head, and a cold smile hung on his face. At this moment, Lu Ming threw a punch at He Tai's fist. Boom! Their fists collided with each other, creating a loud boom. Everyone's heart skipped a beat as they stared at the two of them. Can Lu Ming withstand it? However, they immediately knew the answer. A muscular figure was forced back 5 to 6 steps before he could stabilize himself. The figure was He Tai, while Lu Ming's body did not even shake. Hiss hiss hiss. Gasps of shock could be heard. The air seemed to have frozen at this moment. Almost everyone's mouths were wide open, big enough to stuff a duck egg in. Their eyes were so wide that they almost burst. This was too unbelievable. Lu Ming had abandoned his weapon and used his fist against He Tai's fist. He had actually forced He Tai to retreat 5 to 6 steps with one punch. Could it be that Lu Ming also cultivated fist techniques? Could it be that Lu Ming's physical body was stronger than He Tai's? However, that was impossible. He had never heard of Lu Ming cultivating the path of body tempering. Otherwise, he would not have been in such a sorry state more than 3 months ago. However, how could his physical body be cultivated to such a level in just over 3 months? Unless they had obtained some heavenly treasure. Lu Ming, I'm going to kill you. He Tai was knocked back by Lu Ming's punch. Looking at the shocked gazes around him, he felt extremely humiliated and hated Lu Ming to the core. He let out an angry roar, put his hands on his waist, and put on a pair of metal boxing gloves. Then, he rushed toward Lu Ming. In the process of charging out, his bloodline burst out. The level 4 giant bear bloodline had increased his strength by another 40%. Then I'll play with you. The corners of Lu Ming's lips had been curled into an apathetic smile the entire time. With a single thought, his strength increased by a few points and he threw a punch at He Tai. Using his bare hands against He Tai's spirit weapon gloves. Boom! Their fists collided for the second time. An even more violent explosion was heard. Then, a powerful force burst out from the place where the two fists hit. The force was like a gale, sweeping in all directions. Some of the disciples who were closer were almost swept up by the wind. Be careful. It was noisy. The disciples all used their cultivation to block the wind. On the fighting ring, Lu Ming and He Tai's bodies swayed slightly. They were equally matched. He blocked it. Lu Ming blocked it again. Unbelievable. Lu Ming didn't even activate his blood meridian and is empty-handed, while He Tai has already activated his blood meridian and is wearing a spirit weapon glove. He's too powerful. Lu Ming is too powerful. As long as he can hold on for 2 minutes and wait for He Tai's blood meridian power to be exhausted, he'll definitely win. Not bad, let's do it again. Lu Ming's calm voice was heard. Violent bear fist, go to hell. He Tai roared and punched out again. The shock in his heart was stronger than anyone else's. He knew that he had to end the battle as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would really be defeated in 2 minutes. He Tai exploded with all his strength. Boom! Lu Ming threw another punch. This time, he used another portion of his strength. In the end, He Tai-chan staggered backward. Chapter 103. Chapter 103, 10 consecutive wins. 549690339. Currently, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the early stage of the 8th grade master realm. In addition to the power of the true war dragon technique, his true chi cultivation had already surpassed that of a peak 9th grade master. On the other hand, Lu Ming's physical body had reached lower tier rank 2, while He Tai's was only at complete rank 1. Lu Ming had surpassed He Tai in both aspects. Therefore, Lu Ming did not even use his full strength and he could easily suppress He Tai. He Tai, with your strength, you still have the nerve to call yourself an expert. I've said it before, you and Jiang Hao are no different. Lu Ming's voice rang out, causing He Tai to roar even more furiously. He charged at Lu Ming with all his might. I'm done playing with you, it's almost time to end. Lu Ming said softly and then increased his strength by a few points. Boom. Boom. Lu Ming kept casting the flame dragon fist. His fists were wrapped in a ball of red essential chi. With every punch, a faint dragon's roar could be heard. He Tai could not block it at all, and his figure kept retreating. After a dozen or so punches, He Tai felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. He Tai was going to be defeated. Everyone in the audience watched this scene in silence. They knew that He Tai's defeat was already set in stone and there was nothing he could do to reverse the situation. Bang! Bang! After a few more punches, He Tai's body trembled continuously, and blood flowed out of his body. At this moment, he really wanted to admit defeat, but when he thought of what he had just said, he forced himself to swallow the words admit defeat. Lu Ming sneered and suddenly added another force. Catcher! The sound of bones breaking came from He Tai's arm as he retreated. Lu Ming rushed forward and punched He Tai in the stomach. He Tai let out a blood-curdling screech as his sturdy body was sent flying more than 10 meters away. He fell heavily on the fighting ring, causing it to shake violently. Lu Ming took a step forward and came to He Tai's side. He looked down at He Tai and smiled faintly. Did you just say that you want to break my bone armor? I'm not. No, there's no such thing as Zhong. I admit defeat, I admit defeat. He Tai looked at Lu Ming's cold gaze and felt a chill in his heart. He was so shocked that he quickly shouted, I admit defeat. He knew that if he did not admit defeat, Lu Ming would really break his bones. Oh! He admitted defeat. Then get off the stage, you said it yourself, if you break the contract, I don't mind breaking it too. Lu Ming sneered. He Tai's expression was extremely unsightly. He had indeed said that if he admitted defeat, he would roll down the fighting ring. But at that time, he thought that he would definitely win. He had never thought that he would lose, so he said that. Now that he had really lost, how could he tell him to get out of the fighting stage in front of so many people? However, if he did not do it, Lu Ming could totally use this as an excuse to continue attacking him. Lu Ming, don't go too far. It's better to leave some room for others. In the stands, Yarrow Tianyu stood up and said coldly, leave a way out. Yarrow Tianyu, why haven't I seen you show mercy in the past? Now, your people are lying at my feet like dogs, and I'm standing up and saying that you should leave a way out. What kind of bullshit logic are you talking about? Lu Ming glanced at Yarrow Tianyu and shouted. Yarrow Tianyu's face instantly turned extremely ugly and gloomy. Yarrow Tianyu, you don't have to waste your breath. It's your turn soon. After Lu Ming finished speaking, he turned his gaze away from Yarrow Tianyu and continued to look at He Tai. Are you going to get lost or not? If you don't, I'll personally make you get lost. After saying that, he raised his foot and was about to step on He Tai. The middle-aged judge didn't say a word during the process. He had to uphold any agreement made on the fighting stage. Wait, I'll get lost. I'll get lost. He Tai suddenly shouted. Compared to having all the bones in his body broken by Lu Ming, he ultimately chose to roll. Immediately, he rolled around on the fighting ring in humiliation. His movements were clumsy and ridiculous. He rolled dozens of times before falling off the fighting ring with a plop. Everyone present was dumbfounded. After a long while, they burst into laughter. He Tai's face was completely red, and he was so embarrassed that he could no longer stay there. He ran out of the bronze platform. After today, He Tai would become a laughingstock. On the grandstand, Yarrow Tianyu's killing intent was so thick that it could not be dispersed. He Tai was his man. If He Tai lost face, he would lose face as well. Lu Ming, Lu Ming, Lu Ming, if I don't kill you, I'm not a human. Yarrow Tianyu roared in his heart, his killing intent incomparably sharp. At that moment, the judge announced that Lu Ming had won 9 consecutive wins. Lu Ming had already achieved 9 consecutive wins and was only 1 step away from 10 consecutive wins. Countless people revealed looks of anticipation. In the history of the mystical sword sect, there were not many people who could enter the bronze ranking in their first year. In the past 10 years, there was only one. He was one of the gold disciples of the mystical sword sect, the strongest among all the disciples, one of the Scorching Sun's 6 heroes, Feng Wuji. Feng Wuji was a true peerless genius. Could Lu Ming achieve that? In the next round, Lu Ming will be fighting against an expert with 9 consecutive wins. Who among you with 9 consecutive wins will come up for a fight? The middle-aged judge announced. For a long time, no one spoke. 9 consecutive wins was only 1 match away from 10 consecutive wins. Of course, he had to be extremely cautious. Otherwise, all his previous efforts would be in vain if he lost. Lu Ming's abilities were unfathomable. The disciples who had won 9 times in a row would not go up easily if they were not confident. After waiting for a while, seeing that no one came forward, the judge said, "All right, since no one has taken the initiative to come up, I'll draw lots. Whoever I draw will have to come up." This was also one of the rules of the bronze platform, which was to force people to fight. Otherwise, if some people were too strong to fight, they wouldn't be able to enter the bronze ranking. After the judge finished speaking, someone immediately went up the stage and handed him a box. Inside the box were the names of all the disciples who had won 9 consecutive victories. The judge fumbled around randomly. After a while, he took out a bamboo stick with a name on it. "Wu Hao, you go up and fight." The judge's voice echoed throughout the entire arena. On the west side of the stands, a young man stood up with a helpless look on his face. Since he had been chosen, he could only fight. With a few leaps, Wu Hao reached the fighting ring. "Junior brother Lu, please." Wu Hao cupped his fists, his expression extremely solemn. Lu Ming could easily suppress He Tai and this made him feel very pressured. "Please," Lu Ming said. When the judge announced the start of the match, the two of them began to fight. For Wu Hao to be able to obtain 9 consecutive wins, he naturally had real ability. His movement technique and sword technique were both of the upper yellow level, and he had already cultivated them to the 6th level. His talent could not be said to be lacking. Unfortunately, he had encountered Lu Ming and was destined to lose. Lu Ming did not use his full strength. He used the huge sword in his hand to display the lustrous sword technique. He fought with Wu Hao for dozens of moves before he defeated him. 10 consecutive wins. After defeating Wu Hao, it meant 10 consecutive wins. 10 consecutive wins meant that one would be on the bronze list. The crowd was boiling. Chapter 104. Chapter 104. Get down here. 54969039. The entire bronze platform was in an uproar. Lu Ming had really made it onto the bronze ranking. Today, 2 new students had made it to the bronze rank. One was from the previous batch, and the other was from this batch. This had never happened in the history of the mystical sword sect. Many people cheered that they had not come in vain. They had come today to see if Feng Xinglie could make it onto the bronze rank. In the end, Feng Xinglie lived up to expectations and successfully made it onto the bronze rank. He even defeated Duanmu who was ranked 55th. Originally, they had thought that it would end like this. However, the truth was that it had not ended. It was because Lu Ming had stepped onto the fighting ring. In the beginning, no one was optimistic about Lu Ming's chances. They thought that Lu Ming had stepped onto the fighting ring on impulse after seeing Feng Xinglie's glory. However, it turned out that they were all wrong. Lu Ming had displayed his superb combat abilities and swept through the crowd. He had made it to the bronze rank directly, shocking everyone. Many of them had said with certainty that Lu Ming was arrogant, overconfident, and that it was impossible for him to succeed. Now, they had been slapped in the face by the facts. However, they did not care anymore. They were all excitedly releasing the excitement in their hearts. Whoa, this is too strong. He managed to enter the bronze ranking in his first year. In the past 10 years, only senior brother Feng Wuji has managed to do it. Who is senior brother Feng Wuji? He's a peerless genius, one of the 6 heroes of the Scorching Sun sect. I didn't expect Lu Ming to be able to do it. Could he be a genius on the same level as senior brother Feng Wuji? That's not necessarily true. Some people are powerful in the early stages but may not have such strong potential in the later stages. However, Lu Ming's current performance is indeed very strong. Actually, other than senior brother Feng Wuji, Duan Mulin from the White Tiger Hall can do it as well. However, his bloodline was awakened too early and he was promoted to a Silevera disciple. That's why he didn't try for the bronze rank. Oh, I've heard of this before. As the newcomer king this year, Lu Ming had won 10 consecutive matches. Many disciples had already begun to compare him with the strongest geniuses in the past. Senior brother Lu Ming is mighty. He's invincible. In the southern grandstand, Pang Shi roared excitedly, his face flushed with excitement. Brother, do you know senior brother Lu Ming? Someone nearby asked Pang Shi. When he addressed Lu Ming, he had already added the word senior brother. Of course. Senior brother Lu Ming and I live in the same courtyard. We're roommates. Pang Shi said proudly. He's actually senior brother Lu Ming's roommate. Junior brother Pang, if there's a chance in the future, please introduce us to senior brother Lu Ming. The other disciples said immediately. In the mystical sword sect, many things would be much easier if he had a backer. Lu Ming, a disciple who had just joined the sect this year, had displayed shocking talent. Given time, no one knew what level he would reach. Many smart people were already thinking of ways to get closer to Lu Ming. Haha, I can try, but I can't guarantee that senior Lu Ming won't have the time. Pang Shi said as he touched his head. That's for sure. The others chimed in. Beside Pang Shi, Hua Kai's eyes were also filled with shock. At the same time, there was also a deep admiration. The geniuses on the bronze ranking all had different expressions on their faces. For example, Yang Shu, who was ranked 50th, and Jidong, who was ranked 48th, both had extremely serious expressions. On the other hand, Feng Xinglia's eyes were glistening as he looked at Lu Ming with surprise and admiration, as well as a strong desire to fight. As for Yarou Tianyu, his face was extremely gloomy, and at the same time, killing intent flashed in his eyes. As for the geniuses who were ranked higher on the bronze list, their eyes lit up. No one knew what they were thinking. Do you think Lu Ming will continue to challenge? I think so. Didn't you see? He had previously provoked Yarou Tianyu by name. I guess he will definitely challenge Yarou Tianyu. If he really challenges Yarou Tianyu, that would be interesting. Actually, I think it would be more interesting if he were to challenge Feng Xinglia. Both of them would be the new generation king. Yes. Around them, the disciples of the 4 courtyards began to guess whether Lu Ming would continue to challenge them. The middle-aged judge announced, Lu Ming, you've won 10 battles in a row and have made it onto the bronze ranking. According to the rules, you're now ranked 58. I'll report this to the sect. Now, do you still want to continue the challenge? The middle-aged judge looked at Lu Ming and asked. His eyes were filled with surprise. He had hosted the bronze platform for many years and had seen all kinds of geniuses. However, people like Lu Ming were extremely rare. Everyone's gaze was on Lu Ming. They wanted to know who Lu Ming would challenge. Could it be Yarou Tianyu? As expected, Lu Ming's gaze turned to Yarou Tianyu. Yarou Tianyu looked at Lu Ming coldly. Yarou Tianyu, 3 months ago, I said that I wanted to fight you. However, at that time, you were high and mighty, saying that I was not qualified to fight you. Now, do I have the right? Lu Ming looked at Yarou Tianyu and said word by word. Lu Ming, I admit that you're quite talented. You're indeed qualified to challenge me now. But do you think, Yarrow Tianyu said in a deep voice. Then why are you still talking nonsense? Come down and fight me. Lu Ming interrupted Yarrow Tianyu's words and shouted loudly in an overbearing manner. Giggle. When had Yarrow Tianyu ever enjoyed such treatment? He was interrupted by Lu Ming halfway through his sentence and was even told to get lost for a fight. He felt a towering anger suffocating his chest and almost caused internal injuries. He clenched his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. Lu Ming, do you dare to fight to the death? Yarrow Tianyu let out a furious roar. Just what I want, get down. Lu Ming's fighting spirit was strong and he was not afraid at all. Bzzzzz. Yarrow Tianyu's figure flickered and he appeared on the fighting ring, standing opposite Lu Ming. Do you really want to have a life-and-death battle? The middle-aged judge asked. Not bad. Lu Ming said firmly. I'll kill Lu Ming in a battle of life and death. Yarrow Tianyu said coldly. All right, then let's have a life-and-death battle. We won't stop until one of us is dead, the middle-aged judge announced. In a life-and-death battle, one person would definitely die. No matter who died, it would be a great loss to the mystical sword sect. However, the path of martial arts was full of thorns and difficulties. Every peak expert was tempered through life and death. The middle-aged judge and the higher-ups of the mystical sword sect knew this very well, so they would not stop the death duel between the disciples. No matter how much of a genius he was, as long as it was a fair fight, they would not stop him. If 10 geniuses died in battle and a peerless expert was born, it would be worth it. As the judge's voice fell, the atmosphere in the stadium was once again ignited and boiling. Lu Ming and Yarrow Tianyu were going to have a life-and-death battle. This meant that only one of them could leave the fighting ring today. Between the two of them, who would win? Yarrow Tianyu himself was a super genius. 2 years ago in the newcomer's trial, he was one of the popular candidates to compete for the newcomer king. Now, he was only 17 years old, but he had already reached this level of cultivation, which was extremely rare. As for Lu Ming, he was a super genius among super geniuses. He was this year's newcomer king. In his first year, he had already made it to the bronze rank. In the clash between the two, who would have the last laugh? Chapter 105. Chapter 105, The Great Battle with Yarrow Tianyu. 549690339, Love-struck fool, do you think senior brother Lu Ming can win? In the southern grandstand, Pang Shi could not help but worry for Lu Ming. I don't know. Hua Kai shook his head. It's been a long time since Yarrow Tianyu fought. Although he's only ranked 51st, no one knows if he has any trump cards. But I guess that even if he does, he won't be much stronger than Lu Ming. Hua Kai said. Why? Pang Shi asked. Because Yarrow Tianyu was afraid. Are you afraid? He's going to have a life-and-death battle with Lu Ming. Why would he be afraid? Pang Shi asked in surprise. It's precisely because he wants to have a life-and-death battle that he is afraid. Lu Ming is too talented. Yarrow Tianyu knows that if he doesn't get rid of Lu Ming now, he will not have a chance in the future. He is afraid of Lu Ming's talent. That's why he wants to get rid of Lu Ming now. Hua Kai analyzed. Isn't Lu Ming in danger? Pang Shi's expression changed. Not necessarily, Lu Ming. I've seen through him from the beginning. Hua Kai said. Just then, a few graceful figures appeared in the southern stands. It was Mu Lan, Feng Wu, and the others. It was obvious that they had rushed over after receiving the news that Lu Ming was challenging the bronze platform. Elder Mu Lan, senior sister Feng Wu. Pang Shi immediately greeted him when he saw him. Mu Lan, Feng Wu, and the others went up to Pang Shi and the others made way for them. Lu Ming has really made it onto the bronze ranking. But isn't it a little too hasty to have a life-and-death battle with Yarrow Tianyu now? Feng Wu was both amazed and worried. Don't worry. Lu Ming is very meticulous and not so impulsive. Moreover, since the first day I met him, he has repeatedly exceeded my understanding. I believe that he will not disappoint me today. Mu Lan smiled. Her smile was incomparably charming, causing some of the hot-blooded male disciples to stare with their mouths agape. Some of them even drooled. It was too alluring. At this moment, not only Mulan and the others, but some other people had also come to the stands. Even a few more geniuses on the bronze rank had come. Clearly, they had all rushed over after hearing the news. Boom! Boom! At that moment, on the fighting ring, Lu Ming and Yaro Tianyu both released a powerful aura. Their auras collided in the air, forming a strong wind that swept through the surroundings. Lu Ming, I'll let you see my true abilities now. Yaro Tianyu howled and a saber appeared in his hand. He took a step forward and slashed at Lu Ming. A ray of saber radiance burst out. The pale white saber radiance was more than 10 meters long. It cut through the air and the space, slashing toward Lu Ming's head with a terrifying aura. The martial technique that made Yaro Tianyu famous, black-grade low-level saber technique, windbreaking 8 slashes. As soon as Yaro Tianyu made his move, someone cried out in surprise. As expected, I've successfully cultivated a profound rank martial skill. Let me test its power. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He stomped on the ground heavily and shot forward, his sword slashing at Yaro Tianyu's saber. For the time being, he didn't need to use his spear technique. Lu Ming was extremely strong. The huge sword in his hand was as light as a feather. The giant sword slashed out and destroyed Yaro Tianyu's blade light. The giant sword then heavily hit Yaro Tianyu's saber. Clang! An earth-shattering boom rang out, and sparks flew in all directions. The two of them quickly retreated at the same time. The first move was a tie. He blocked it. Lu Ming actually blocked Yaro Tianyu's black-level saber technique. Lu Ming must have cultivated the path of body tempering. With his strong physical body and the integration of martial arts, he was able to unleash a powerful combat power. That's how he managed to block Yaro Tianyu's black-level saber technique physical body against black-level saber techniques. Who is stronger? The disciples of the four halls were all staring at the scene. Lu Ming, let's see how many of my attacks you can block. Yaro Tianyu let out a long howl and attacked like a tidal wave. Saber radiance burst forth and tore through the air, aiming for Lu Ming once again. Lu Ming wielded his huge sword and engaged Yaro Tianyu in a fierce battle. Clang! Clang! Violent collisions kept happening, and the sound of explosions continued. The powerful saber radiance and sword chi surged out, forming a powerful storm that swept in all directions. At the same time, sword chi and saber radiance slashed the fighting ring. However, the fighting stage was extremely hard, and there were even inscriptions on it. Even martial grandmasters couldn't break it. Sword chi and saber light didn't leave a mark on it. The battle was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 30 moves, and neither of them had a clear winner. Yaro Tianyu, it seems that you've only cultivated the black-level saber technique to the second stage. If that's all you've got, then you should just die. Lu Ming let out a long howl as his essential chi surged. He exerted all his strength, and the strength of his essential chi and physical body exploded. Of course, Lu Ming did not display the blood meridian and the fire force. Buzz! The combat sword cut through the void, making a terrifying buzzing sound. This sword was much stronger than the previous one. Lu Ming did not use his full strength just now. Someone exclaimed. Yaro Tianyu's eyes narrowed. Then, a blood-red light flashed on his body, and a huge mantis with 5 blood-red chakras appeared. Then, the mantis burrowed itself into Yaro Tianyu's body, and the aura on Yaro Tianyu's body intensified. Bloodline explosion. Yaro Tianyu's bloodline was that of the dual-blade mantis, which greatly enhanced his blade techniques. With the activation of his bloodline, Yaro Tianyu's blade techniques became even sharper and more powerful. Clang! There was another explosion, and the two of them retreated again. After Lu Ming took a step back, he stomped on the ground and charged forward again. Yaro Tianyu did the same. The two of them were like two cannonballs, heavily crashing together. Clang! Clang! In just a few breaths, the two of them had exchanged more than 10 moves. At the scene, everyone held their breath as they watched unblinkingly. It was too intense and exciting. Boom! With another move, The two of them trembled and slid back a dozen meters before they could stabilize them's levers. Yarrow Tianyu, is this your full strength? I'm really disappointed. As soon as 2 minutes are up, your bloodline power will disappear, and you won't be able to fight me. Lu Ming's indifferent voice was heard. As soon as Lu Ming finished speaking, the entire venue was filled with whispers. Lu Ming was right. Once the time for Yarrow Tianyu's blood meridian outbreak was over, how was he going to fight Lu Ming? How can this be? How can Lu Ming be so powerful? The few young men who followed Yarrow Tianyu shouted in disbelief. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, I admit that you're very strong. It's not bad that you can force me to this point. Now, I'll show you my true strength. I was planning to use it in the great competition of the 4 courtyards in 2 months. It's your honor to use it on you. At this moment, Yarrow Tianyu was not afraid. Instead, he laughed out loud. Then, Yarrow Tianyu took a step forward, and the fighting ring rumbled. Yarrow Tianyu's muscles quickly bulged, and a faint black light appeared on his skin, making him look like a black iron. Chapter 106. Chapter 106. Chapter 106 Profound Level Martial Arts Technique, I know it too. 549690339, Lu Ming, don't think that you're the only one who has cultivated the body tempering path. Yarrow Tianyu let out a long howl. With a bang, Yarrow Tianyu's body was like a huge piece of iron. He charged at Lu Ming and slashed at him. The saber light howled and shook the world. The Tao of body refinement. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. He exploded with all his strength and blocked the attack with the giant sword. Boom! When the huge sword and Yarrow Tianyu's saber clashed, Lu Ming felt an overwhelming force surging toward him and his body slid back by more than 10 meters. He only felt his body go numb. The path of body cultivation. Yarrow Tianyu has also cultivated the path of body cultivation. He's cultivating the same body cultivation technique as He Tai. Judging from the level of control, he's not weaker than He Tai. With a strong body and black level saber techniques, Lu Ming is finished. He's no match for him. That's right. With his strong body and black level saber technique, his combat power is too strong. Yarrow Tianyu's ranking on the bronze rank is definitely not just 51st. In my opinion, he can be ranked in the 40s. Lu Ming can't possibly fight against him. Lu Ming is in danger. What a pity for such a genius. I don't think so. Maybe Lu Ming has also cultivated a black level martial arts technique. Idiot, Lu Ming has also cultivated a black level martial arts technique. How was this possible? Do you think profound grade martial arts techniques are so easy to cultivate? How long has it been since Lu Ming entered the sect? One's cultivation level can be increased rapidly by relying on rare treasures or fortuitous encounters. However, martial arts techniques rely on one's comprehension and time. Although Lu Ming is very talented, he has too little time. I'm 100% sure that it's impossible for him to cultivate a black-level cultivation technique now. Yarrow Tianyu's sudden outburst caused everyone to fall into a state of shock. In the southern grandstand, Pang She was extremely anxious. What do we do? Yarrow Tianyu was actually this strong. What to do? Would senior brother Lu Ming be alright? This is a battle of life and death. Pang She, calm down. Feng Wu called out, but there was worry in her eyes as well. Hua Kai and Mu Lan did not say anything. However, their eyes were also filled with worry. Lu Ming, can you still create a miracle? Mu Lan muttered to herself. On the eastern grandstand, Yarrow Tianyu's lackeys were ecstatic. Haha, senior brother Yarrow is invincible. How can a mere Lu Ming fight with senior brother Yarrow? He's destined to die in senior brother Yarrow's hands. A few lackeys shouted. In addition, Feng Xinglie, Yang Shu, and the other geniuses on the bronze ranking all stared at the stage with bright eyes. Lu Ming, this is my strongest combat power. Do you see it? That's the difference between us. I can kill you in 1 minute. Yarrow Tianyu's tone was very arrogant. At the same time, he was full of disdain and mockery towards Lu Ming. However, to everyone's surprise, Lu Ming actually smiled. Lu Ming smiled confidently and calmly. His clear voice could be heard from afar. "This giant sword is really not easy to use. I thought that this sword would be enough to defeat you, but now it seems that I have to change." As soon as he finished speaking, the huge sword in Lu Ming's hand disappeared and an 8-foot-long fiery red spear appeared in his hand. A spear? Could it be that Lu Ming uses a long spear? I heard that he's always using a sword. Could he be bluffing? No matter what, in the end, we still have to rely on strength. Yarrow Tianyu looked at the long spear in Lu Ming's hand. His eyes flickered and he sneered. What's the use of changing weapons? Die. With a flash of saber light, Yarrow Tianyu continued to charge at Lu Ming. Fire gun art broken armor. The spear thrust out, bringing with it an intense spinning cutting force. The spear hit the blade of Yarrow Tianyu's saber accurately. A powerful force burst out from the tip of the spear, and the blade light that Yarrow Tianyu had condensed on the blade was instantly scattered. With a clang, the battle blade trembled, and Yarrow Tianyu's figure staggered back. Black rank spear technique? Impossible. Yarrow Tianyu let out a roar of disbelief. Lu Ming must have used a black-level martial arts technique to push him back with a single spear attack. Moreover, the level of mastery was definitely not weaker than his saber technique. How was this possible? 3 months ago, Lu Ming definitely did not manage to master the black-level spear technique. Otherwise, he would have used it in that life-and-death situation. There could only be one explanation. Within 3 months, not only did Lu Ming's physical body and cultivation level improve, but he had also cultivated a black-level spear technique. At the thought of this, Yarrow Tianyu's heart was filled with intense fear. Lu Ming was too freakish and abnormal. This kind of talent was too terrifying. No, I must kill him today. Otherwise, I'll be the one to die in the future. Yarrow Tianyu roared in his heart. At this moment, everyone present was stunned. When Lu Ming pushed back Yarrow Tianyu with one shot, they were already stunned. Fire gun art mountain crash. Lu Ming seized the initiative and did not give Yarrow Tianyu the slightest chance. He leaped high into the air and smashed his long spear down fiercely. The long spear whizzed through the air, emitting a terrifying sonic boom. Yarrow Tianyu had no time to counterattack, so he could only block with his saber. Clang! The long spear smashed into Yarrow Tianyu's battle blade. This spear strike contained the power to split the earth and shatter the mountains. Yarrow Tianyu's body trembled and his legs trembled. He almost knelt down. He felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. When Lu Ming used the black-level martial arts technique, he had completely crushed him. LNU. Lu Ming did not show any mercy. He launched a frenzied attack. His long spear was like a dragon, constantly bombarding Yarrow Tianyu. Yarrow Tianyu spat out a mouthful of blood. He was at a complete disadvantage. The eyes of the disciples from the 4 halls almost popped out of their sockets. A black-level martial arts technique. Lu Ming has also cultivated a black-level martial arts technique. This is incredible. Who's that? Weren't you 100% sure that Lu Ming could not cultivate a black-level martial arts technique? What do you say now? This. The one who was asked blushed and was completely speechless. He was not the only one. The disciples of the 4 courtyards who were certain that Lu Ming could not have cultivated a black-level martial arts technique all blushed. Lu Ming's words were a harsh slap to their faces. They did not dare to speak anymore. Lu Ming was simply beyond common sense. They were afraid that if they said too much, they would be slapped in the face again. Haha, senior brother Lu Ming, you're amazing. Pang Shi's body trembled with excitement. Mu Lan, Feng Wu, and Hua Kai were overjoyed as well, but they couldn't hide the shock on their faces. Impossible? How is that possible? Yarrow Tianyu's lackeys roared in disbelief. Bang! After more than 10 moves, Lu Ming's spear swept across Yarrow Tianyu's chest. The sound of bones breaking echoed throughout the entire arena. Yarrow Tianyu's body was sent flying more than 20 meters and he fell heavily on the fighting ring. His body twitched non-stop, and the saber in his hand flew far away. Yarrow Tianyu had lost. He had been completely defeated. He was defeated by Lu Ming, the newcomer king of the year. The disciples of the four courtyards, including the geniuses on the bronze list, held their breath and looked at the two figures on the fighting ring. Chapter 107. Chapter 107, You Don't Have the Right. 5496903339. Lu Ming walked towards Yarou Tianyu, step by step, his clear and indifferent voice ringing out. Yarou Tianyu, a few months ago in the Dark Blood Mountain, your lackey tried to snatch my dark bloodstone but was forced to run away by me. At that time, I had already shown mercy. However, you thought that you were superior and that I must obey you. When I returned to the sect, you ordered someone to summon me and asked me to hand over the dark bloodstone. I didn't agree to it, but you instigated the Star Moon Tower to cause trouble for the new Vermilion Bird Hall disciples and hurt my brother Pang Shi on purpose. Your purpose was to infuriate me so that you could take me down with the people of the Law Enforcement Hall. Then, I would be at your mercy. At that time, you were so arrogant and insufferably arrogant that I didn't even have the right to challenge you. But now, where did your arrogance go? Lu Ming walked as he spoke. When he finished speaking, he had already walked to Yarou Tianyu's side. His eyes were indifferent as he looked down at him. The surrounding disciples of the four halls suddenly came to a realization after hearing this. So that was how the feud between Lu Ming and Yarou Tianyu came about. Yarou Tianyu is too arrogant. He actually used such a despicable method. It's not that Yarou Tianyu is arrogant, but that's how the world of martial arts should be. It's just that Yarou Tianyu chose the wrong person. If he had chosen someone else, he would have to submit to him. However, he had to meet Lu Ming, a peerless genius. Therefore, he can only fail. The disciples of the four halls were discussing among themselves. The battle of life and death ends here. Lu Ming's cold voice was heard. Wait a minute, Lu Ming, wait a minute. Don't kill me. You're a peerless genius, and I'm not bad either. We can work together. In the future, no one in the mystical sword sect will be our match. Yarou Tianyu's body struggled madly as he shouted. He was still young and had a bright future ahead of him. He didn't want to die. Cooperation? You are not qualified to work with me. Lu Ming smiled in disdain. Whoosh. Then, the spear flashed and pierced through Yarou Tianyu's chest. Yarou Tianyu let out a blood-curdling screech as he clutched the spear shaft tightly with both hands. Blood was gushing out of his mouth, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness, hatred, and regret. At this moment, he finally regretted. He regretted offending Lu Ming. Buzz. Lu Ming pulled out the long spear and shook it. The blood on the long spear flew away, not leaving a single drop. Yarou Tianyu's body slowly went limp, and finally, he stopped breathing. Yarou Tianyu, a genius on the bronze list, was dead. At this moment, the crowd was boiling. Today, not only had Lu Ming made it onto the bronze ranking, but he had also killed Yarou Tianyu. All of this was like a dream. It was so unreal. But that was the truth. Today, Lu Ming's name was destined to spread throughout the entire mystical sword sect. In the southern stands, Pang Shi laughed maniacally. Mu Lan and the others also smiled. On the east side of the stands, Yarou Tianyu's lackeys were pale and weak as they sat in their seats. Yarou Tianyu was dead. They knew that their future days would not be easy. Previously, they had been tyrannical because of Yarou Tianyu, and had offended many people. Those people were afraid of Yarou Tianyu, so of course, they did not dare to do anything to them. But now that Yarou Tianyu was dead, who would care about them? Their future would be miserable. The geniuses on the bronze list were also shocked by the scene. I can't match up to Lu Ming's talent. Feng Xinglia let out a long sigh and turned around to leave the stands. Lu Ming is the winner of this battle. Lu Ming, do you still want to continue the challenge? The middle-aged judge announced loudly. Lu Ming shook his head and walked down the fighting ring. Killing Yarou Tianyu was enough. There was no need to fight anymore. It was better to keep some trump cards for himself. In this battle, he had already exposed his body refinement Dao and profound level martial arts techniques. Of course, he could only display the power of the second level of a profound rank martial skill. Additionally, He still had control force which he had not used. If he really used it, the disciples of the Four Courtyards would be shocked beyond words. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're really amazing. Pang Shi, Hua Kai, Mu Lan, and the others also got down from the stands and walked toward Lu Ming. Before they even arrived, Pang Shi had already started shouting excitedly. Lu Ming, when did you manage to cultivate a black-level martial arts technique? We've suffered so much hiding it from you. Feng Wu said as she walked over. It's too noisy here. Let's talk as we walk. Lu Ming smiled. There were tens of thousands of people here, and it was really inconvenient to talk in such a noisy place. The crowd left the bronze platform and headed toward the Vermilion Bird Hall. Lu Ming briefly explained his trip to the Southridge fire field to cultivate his spear technique. As for the fact that he had comprehended control force, he didn't mention it. You're saying that he's only been cultivating in the Southridge fire field for a few months, and has already cultivated the profound rank spear technique to this level? Feng Wu and the others all stared at him. That's right. The environment of that place just so happens to be compatible with my spear technique. As such, it's much easier for me to cultivate there. Lu Ming said. You. What a pervert. Everyone despised Lu Ming. How could it be so easy to cultivate a profound grade martial skill? It was very easy to find a suitable environment to cultivate in, but how many people could actually master it? Everyone could only describe Lu Ming as abnormal. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Only he knew that he had relied on the chanting in the Supreme Shrine and his tireless cultivation to achieve his current achievements. They chatted as they walked, and soon, they arrived at the Vermilion Bird Hall where Lu Ming and Pang Shi were staying. Senior Sister Mu Lan, I still haven't returned the 3,000 contribution points I owe you from last time. After entering the courtyard, Lu Ming took out his identity jade card. Mu Lan's beautiful eyes flickered. Her limpid eyes darted back and forth on Lu Ming's body. After a while, she said, last time, not only did you defeat Ning Feng, but you've also made it onto the bronze list and killed Yarrow Tianyu. You've greatly boosted the prestige of the Vermilion Bird Hall. I can't be stingy anymore. Take the 3,000 contribution points as your reward. Many thanks, Senior Sister Mu Lan. As soon as Mu Lan finished her sentence, Lu Ming immediately thanked her without any embarrassment, as if he was afraid that Mu Lan would go back on her words. You. Mu Lan was speechless. Then, she shifted her gaze and said, now that you've made it onto the bronze ranking, you'll be representing the Vermilion Bird Hall in the great competition of the 4 halls in 2 months. The great competition of the 4 courtyards. Lu Ming had some doubts. Pang Shi was confused as well, while Hua Kai and Feng Wu's eyes flickered, as if they had heard about the competition. Mu Lan explained, the great competition of the 4 courtyards is a competition between the 4 courtyards. It's held once a year. For example, among the bronze disciples, the geniuses on the bronze ranking will directly participate. It's because it's meaningless for other disciples to participate. Similarly, the Silevera disciples will be directly participated by the geniuses on the Silevera ranking. In the end, they will be rewarded according to the results of the disciples of each courtyard. Not only will the individual participants be rewarded handsomely, but the sect master will also represent the sect and give more resources to the great courtyard that performs well. This is the most important thing. Chapter 108. Chapter 108. The Great Competition of the 4 Courtyards. 54969039. I see. Lu Ming nodded. Now that you're on the bronze ranking, the Vermilion Bird Hall has 10 geniuses on the bronze ranking. In 2 months, you'll be representing the Vermilion Bird Hall in the tournament. You'll have to work hard on your cultivation during this time. If you rank well, not only will you receive a generous reward, but the entire Vermilion Bird Hall will also benefit. Mu Lan said with a smile. Lu Ming smiled. Don't worry. I'll do my best. Feng Wu, what did you say a few months ago? He asked. I said that if I defeat Yarrow Tianyu in 4 months, you'll have to treat me to a big meal. Hey. Why do you remember it so clearly? Big Sister Mu Lan has already given you 3,000 contribution points as a reward, And you're still thinking about my feast? Feng Wu rolled her eyes at Lu Ming. Lu Ming touched his nose. That's another matter. I've been thinking about your big meal for a few months. That's right, that's not the same thing. Haha, you guys have to bring me, old Pang, along. Pang Shi jeered from the side. Hey, Big Rock, what are you doing? Feng Wu said unhappily. In the end, they couldn't win against the few of them. The group left the Vermilion Bird Peak and arrived at Shenzhen City. Everyone ate and drank to their heart's content. When they returned, it was already late at night. Lu Ming did not cultivate that night. Instead, he had a good rest. The next day, Lu Ming walked towards the contribution hall. He was going to exchange his Silivera and a few martial arts techniques for contribution points, and then exchange them for some demonic beast blood essence to cultivate. He had more than 4 million taels of Silivera on him, as well as 3 martial skill manuals. They were respectively the yellow-grade low-rank sword technique Wild Wave Slash, the yellow-grade high-rank body technique Soaring Cloud Steps, and the yellow-grade high-rank cultivation technique Hunyuan technique. However, Lu Ming did not plan to exchange for the cloud treading steps. He planned to keep it for his own cultivation. After all, his cultivation time was too short. He could not be compared to those senior disciples who had cultivated for a few years, or even 5 or 6 years, or even 7 or 8 years. Those senior disciples had no lack of movement martial skills, offensive martial skills, and defensive martial skills. Their maturity was not weak. However, Lu Ming had only cultivated 4 types of martial arts techniques: Flame Dragon Fist, Dragon Snake Steps, Lustrous Sword Technique, Fire Lance Technique. At his current realm, the Flame Dragon Fist and Dragon Serpent Steps were no longer of much use. He had to cultivate a higher-level martial art technique. He planned to focus on practicing the cloud treading steps and fire-controlling gun art before the great competition of the 4 courtyards. As for other martial arts techniques, he didn't have that much energy. And this was because of the chanting in the Supreme Shrine. How long had he been cultivating? It had only been 10 months or so. If it had been anyone else, they would definitely not have been able to cultivate these martial skills to such a profound level in such a short time. After arriving at the contribution hall, Lu Ming exchanged Wild Wave Slash and Hunyuan technique for contribution points. He had exchanged for a total of 30,000 contribution points. He also exchanged 2 million taels of Silivera for contribution points, leaving him with more than 2 million taels of Silivera. He had a total of 50,000 contribution points. In addition to the remaining contribution points that Lu Ming had a total of 55,000 contribution points. Then, Lu Ming started to exchange for demonic beast blood essence. A 9th grade 2nd level demonic beast cost 1,600 contribution points each. Lu Ming exchanged for 25 of them, using up a total of 40,000 contribution points. Lu Ming also exchanged for a piece of upper lever 2 soft armor, which cost him 3,000 contribution points. His 55,000 contribution points had been reduced to 12,000 in an instant. This rate of expenditure was truly too terrifying. Lu Ming could not help but feel his heart ache. However, it was worth it to improve his abilities. After returning to the dormitory, Lu Ming entered the Supreme Shrine and began to cultivate. Lu Ming did not consume the demonic beast's blood essence continuously. Instead, he would consume and refine a portion every 2 days. This way, his foundation would not be unstable. For the rest of the time, Lu Ming spent most of his time on the cloud treading steps and the fire-controlling gun technique. He would also take some time to comprehend the force of fire. Every time he comprehended the force of fire, a volcano would appear in his mind. The might of a volcano would spread in his heart. To Lu Ming's surprise, as his understanding of the force of fire deepened, the effect of cultivating the fire gun controlling art was better than usual. It was as if he was cultivating in the Lingnan fire field at all times. Time passed day by day, and the annual great competition of the 4 courtyards was getting closer and closer. During this period of time, the atmosphere in the 4 halls of the mystical sword sect became more and more tense. All the geniuses on the bronze list were cultivating in seclusion in order to improve themselves. More people were stepping up to challenge the bronze platform, hoping to make it to the bronze rank and be qualified to participate in the great competition of the 4 courtyards. More than a month later, the fire gun art had another breakthrough and entered the 4th level. When the great competition of the 4 courtyards was about to begin, the fire gun controlling art had reached the peak of the 4th level. However, it seemed that he had encountered a bottleneck. No matter how hard Lu Ming cultivated, he could not break through. His greatest improvement was the soaring cloud steps. As a warrior's martial Dao realm rose, his understanding of martial Dao would also become deeper and deeper. It would be faster for him to practice low-level martial arts techniques. For example, if a martial king-level martial artist were to practice yellow-rank martial arts, he would probably be able to reach the 6th level in less than 2 days. Therefore, Lu Ming's current cultivation of the yellow-level upper-level soaring cloud was several times faster than when he cultivated the lustrous sword technique. Within 2 months, Lu Ming had cultivated the cloud treading steps to the highest level, the 6th level, the union of man and martial arts. After refining 25 portions of 9th grade 2nd level demonic beast blood essence, Lu Ming's cultivation base had also risen to the peak of the 8th grade master realm. He was only 1 step away from the 9th grade master realm. At this time, the mystical sword sect was welcoming the most lively and exciting moment of the year. The great competition of the 4 courtyards. At this moment, almost all the mystical sword sect disciples had returned to the sect. Although most of the disciples were not qualified to participate, it would be very helpful for their cultivation to witness the battle between the top geniuses of different realms. Moreover, there were actually 4 new disciples on the same stage in this great competition of the 4 courtyards. This was extremely rare even in the history of the mystical sword sect, so it was naturally even more attractive. Lu Ming, this is for you. On the day of the grand competition of the 4 courtyards, Hua Kai and Pang Shi knocked on Lu Ming's door before dawn. Hua Kai stuffed a small notebook into his hands. What is this? Lu Ming had some doubts. This is the information of all the geniuses on the bronze list. You can take a look. It might be helpful to you. Hua Kai said. What? The information of all the geniuses on the bronze list. How did you guys get it? Lu Ming was shocked. Senior brother Lu Ming, Hua Kai has spent a lot of money recently and hired many senior disciples to help collect these. I've realized now that the love-struck fool has nothing but money. Pang Shi said. Hey, Big Rock, what are you saying? What do you mean I have nothing but money? I'm telling you, I have everything. Hua Kai said unhappily. Lu Ming's heart moved. He could not help but feel touched. It was not hard to imagine that to collect such information, it was definitely not something that could be done with a little bit of money. It was definitely a huge number. He had a feeling that Hua Kai's identity wasn't simple. Many thanks. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, I just don't want you to lose so badly. After all, we're from the same dormitory. If you lose so badly, I'll lose face too. Hua Kai left these words before turning around and leaving. Senior brother Lu Ming, we'll set off together later. Pang Shi said as he touched his head before leaving. Chapter 109. Chapter 109, The Vermilion Bird Hall's Dean. 5496903339. Lu Ming returned to his room and opened his notebook to read. It contained the detailed information of everyone on the bronze list, including their martial arts techniques, cultivation, and weapons. Although it was not 100% accurate, it was very valuable as a reference. It would be of great help to Lu Ming. One could only win every battle if one knew one's enemy and oneself. There were 60 names recorded in the book, which meant that there were 60 people on the bronze list. Before Lu Ming entered the bronze rank, there were 56 people on the bronze rank. Yao Tianyu was killed. However, with Lu Ming and Feng Xinglie, there were 57 people on the bronze rank, which meant that 3 more people had entered the bronze rank recently. As expected, the Vermilion Bird Hall has the least number of people. The Vermilion Bird Hall had 11 students, the Black Tortoise Hall had 12, the Azure Dragon Hall had 15, and the White Tiger Hall had 22. The Vermilion Bird Hall was last, while the White Tiger Hall was the strongest. In the end, Lu Ming's gaze landed on the first 10 names: Zhong Muyun, Duanmu Yunyang, Biyu Xingkai, and Duan Gang. The 10 names represented the top 10 of the bronze rank. The Vermilion Bird Hall only has one person in the top 10. Lu Ming frowned. The Vermilion Bird Hall only had one person in the top 10, and she was ranked 6th. 4 from the White Tiger Hall, 3 from the Azure Dragon Hall, and 2 from the Onyx Tortoise Hall. There was no doubt that the Vermilion Bird Hall was the worst in terms of both the number of people and the top geniuses. Top 10. A glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes, and he revealed a trace of fighting spirit. Very quickly, 2 hours had passed and the sky was already bright. When Lu Ming walked out of the room, he saw Pang Shi and Hua Kai already in the courtyard. Besides them, Feng Wu was also there. Lu Ming, I heard that Hua Kai has been collecting information on the geniuses on the bronze rank. How's it going? Feng Wu asked. I'm done. Lu Ming nodded. Yes, but I have to add a few points. Let's talk as we walk, Feng Wu said. The few of them nodded and walked out. The geniuses on the bronze list can be roughly divided into 6 levels and 3 types. Have you heard of them? Feng Wu asked. 6 levels, 3 types. Lu Ming, Hua Kai, and Pang Shi were a little puzzled. That's right. The 6 levels are divided according to combat strength. After all, most of the geniuses on the bronze list are at the peak of the 9th grade master realm. Although some of them are ranked first, their combat strength is very close. The 45th to 60th ranks are in the 6th level. The 30th to 45th ranks are in the 5th level. The 20th to 30th ranks are in the 4th level. The 10th to 20th ranks are in the 3rd level. The 4th to 10th ranks are in the 2nd level. The top 3 are the strongest and are in the 1st level. There are 3 types. The first type is like you and Feng Xinglia. They just entered the school and entered the bronze rank not long ago. They are very talented, but they are not very strong because they have only been on the school for a short time. The second type is the extremely talented geniuses who have been on the bronze list for a long time, but have deliberately stayed at the peak of the 9th grade master realm in order to build a stronger foundation. This type of geniuses have the most terrifying combat strength, and most of the top 10 on the bronze list are this type. The third type is the senior disciples who have been in the sect for many years. They are stuck at the peak of the 9th grade master realm and have been unable to break through. These types have limited potential, but due to their many years of cultivation, they have mastered all sorts of martial arts and secret techniques, so their combat strength is also very strong. Feng Wu explained in detail. Lu Ming and the other 2 nodded after hearing that. They did not expect that there were so many tricks to it. Lu Ming, in the future, you just need to know what to do when you face your enemies, Feng Wu said. The 4 of them chatted as they walked. Soon, they arrived at the place where the great competition of the 4 courtyards would be held. The great competition of the 4 courtyards was not held in the 4 courtyards or in the middle of the 4 courtyards. Instead, it was to the north of the Onyx Tortoise Hall, where the core of the mystical sword sect was. This place was vast, with peaks towering and clouds lingering, making it hazy. This was where the sect leader, golden-robed elders, and gold-rank disciples cultivated and lived. It was said that other than these, the true strength of the mystical sword sect was hidden here, and it was the core of the mystical sword sect. In front of the peaks, there was a flat piece of land where a fighting stage was built. Around the fighting stage were wide stands. The layout was very similar to the bronze platform, but it was several times wider and more majestic. The square grandstand could hold more than 100,000 people. The disciples from the 4 halls continued to gather there. When Lu Ming and the others arrived, they found the Vermilion Bird Hall's area and sat down. As time passed, more and more people arrived. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. That's the headmaster of the White Tiger Hall and the Silivra-robed elder of the White Tiger Hall. Someone whispered. Lu Ming and the others looked up and saw dozens of figures stepping on the air. There were old men and middle-aged men. Each of them had the aura of a mountain. They were extremely dense and suffocating. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people landed in the White Tiger Hall's area. The Vermilion Bird Hall's headmaster and the Silver-robed elder are here as well. Suddenly, a Vermilion Bird Hall disciple nearby cried out in excitement. There were also dozens of people in the air, both men and women, and all of them had powerful auras. The leader was an old man with white hair. He was wearing a fiery red robe with a lifelike vermilion bird embroidered on it. He had a kind expression and greeted the people from the Vermilion Bird Hall with a smile. This was the head of the Vermilion Bird Hall, Yang Lan. Lu Ming saw a familiar face beside the Vermilion Bird Hall's dean. It was Mu Lan. Fengwu, what's Mu Lan's relationship with the dean? Lu Ming could not help but ask Fengwu. You don't know? The director is big sister Mu Lan's grandfather. Fengwu said. Grandpa. As expected. Lu Ming could not help but recall that Yao Tianyu had mentioned this news a few months ago. He just did not pay attention to it at that time. As expected, Mu Lan's identity was not simple. On the side, Pang Shu and Hua Kai were also dumbfounded. A dean of a large courtyard was definitely a top figure in the mystical sword sect. His status was comparable to the golden-robed elders, and his authority was even greater than the golden-robed elders. In the mystical sword sect, he was a true overlord. At that moment, the Vermilion Bird Hall director and the others landed in the Vermilion Bird Hall's area. After they landed, the Vermilion Bird Hall director and Mu Lan actually walked toward Lu Ming and the others. Mars. The dean is here. Pang Shu was so nervous that he stuttered. Hua Kai was rather calm, but there was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. The people nearby were even more nervous. After all, it was not easy to see the dean. Who is the principal here to see? Could it be Lu Ming? Such a thought flashed through many people's minds. They had guessed correctly. The Vermilion Bird Hall dean and Mu Lan walked toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming greets the dean and senior sister Mu Lan. Lu Ming cupped his fists and bowed. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,